Chapter 1801. Li Feng was Ling Tian, and Ling Tian was Li Feng. Apart from Duan Ling Tian, only Ji Yuli knew about this. For this reason, he was not surprised when he heard Meng Qing's words. He must have learned about it. Duan Ling Tian nodded in response to Meng Qing's question. He could roughly guess Meng Qing's intention for summoning him here. He must be worried his master would be interested in the Devil Dao cultivation method that Xu Jing cultivated. Meng Qing did not know that his master was only someone made up by him. Even Meng Qing, the mansion master, had to tread carefully when it came to a powerhouse from the upper province. We'll just leave it at that if that Devil Dao cultivation method is an inhumane type. However, if it's a normal type, our mystical sky mansion is willing to share it with your master as well, Meng Qing said to Duan Ling Tian bluntly as his eyes gleamed. Mansion master, Duan Ling Tian did not expect Meng Qing would say such words. He was momentarily stunned. He was about to continue speaking when Meng Qing interrupted him by saying, "Let's just go with this. After all, if it wasn't for you and your senior brother, our mystical sky mansion wouldn't have been able to obtain this Devil Dao cultivation method. However, currently, we still haven't obtained the Devil Dao cultivation method. We'll have to wait a year and a half for the soul of the young mansion master to recover a little before we can use the soul-searching secret tactic on him. Mansion master, my master and his disciples have no interest in that Devil Dao cultivation method," Duan Ling Tian finally said after Meng Qing finished speaking. No interest in that Devil Dao cultivation method? Meng Qing was baffled by Duan Ling Tian's words. It was a top-rated Devil Dao cultivation method after all. To think there were people who were not interested in it. It seems like Ling Tian's master is not a simple person even in the upper province, Meng Qing thought to himself as he shuddered inwardly. Don't worry, mansion master. We, master and disciples, have no intention toward that Devil Dao cultivation method at all. Moreover, I'll also keep the fact that the mystical sky mansion has obtained the Devil Dao cultivation method a secret, Duan Ling Tian continued to say. Upon hearing that, Meng Qing studied Duan Ling Tian for a moment before he said, "No matter what, you've done a meritorious deed for the mystical sky mansion. Originally, I planned to share that Devil Dao cultivation method with your master and his disciples to return the favor. However, it did not cross my mind that all of you are not interested in that Devil Dao cultivation method. In that case, the mystical sky mansion and I will need to repay your favor in some other form." When Meng Qing reached the end of the sentence, he asked, "Tell me, what kind of rewards do you want? Perhaps, there's something the mystical sky mansion can do for you." Mansion master, if it's possible, I wish for the mystical sky mansion to help me search for some materials. Duan Ling Tian realized this was an opportunity for him to speed up his search for the materials to repair the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda's fourth level. As one of the two great guardians of mystical sky mansion, Ji Yun definitely had many connections. However, he was still inferior compared to the force of the entire mystical sky mansion. If mansion master Meng Qing passed down an order on his behalf, the search would definitely increase in efficiency with the entire mystical sky mansion helping him to search for the materials. Materials? What materials? Meng Qing was puzzled. I've already drawn the materials and passed it to Guardian Ji so he can help me search for it. If you really want to repay me, Mansion Master Meng Qing, please help me search for these materials as well. They're very important to me and my master, Duan Ling Tian replied. Alright, I understand. Meng Qing nodded. I'll look for Guardian Ji later and get copies of the drawing. The mystical sky mansion will do its best to search for those materials for you. This is my promise to you. Meng Qing was the mansion master of mystical sky mansion. He was, naturally, a man of his words. For this reason, Duan Ling Tian did not doubt his words at all. Thank you, mansion master. This small deed is nothing compared to your contribution to the mystical sky mansion, Meng Qing said with a wave of his hand. Small deed. Duan Ling Tian remained composed when he heard Meng Qing's words. Perhaps, this was just a small deed for Meng Qing. However, this was an important matter to him. These materials were needed to repair the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. In his opinion, this was much more appealing than that Devil Dao cultivation method that the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, Xu Jing, cultivated. Naturally, Duan Ling Tian did not say anything. What could he say? He could not reveal the existence of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, could he? He was absolutely certain if he revealed the existence of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, the mansion master of mystical sky mansion would most likely kill him to obtain the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was just too tempting. If he was in Meng Qing's shoes as the mansion master of mystical sky mansion, it would rouse his greed as well. Especially when the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was merely in the possession of a weak disciple. The 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was a celestial supreme treasure, and even in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, it was considered valuable. As a quasi-third-rate force, an elite force in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, it was naturally easy for mystical sky mansion to search for the materials. As Meng Qing passed down his order, all of the mystical sky mansion's elders and disciples at every operations point in the lower province began to make their moves and searched unreservedly for the materials that Duan Lingtian needed. As time passed, half of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land had been searched by the mystical sky mansion. Currently, 3 months had gone by. Zhao Deng and Zhao Jin, who were guarding the Rising Sky Mansion's estate, had also returned to the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate and were replaced by another 2 Vice Mansion Masters of Mystical Sky Mansion. Zhao Ji immediately received news of their return and went to look for them. As soon as Zhao Ji saw Zhao Jin and Zhao Deng, he instantly asked, "Grandfather, father, did Rong Fan return?" "No." Zhao Deng shook his head. Zhao Jin's originally solemn expression faded and was replaced with a smile when he saw Zhao Ji. "Jer, you didn't neglect your cultivation, right?" "No." Zhao Ji shook his head before walking next to him in just 3 steps. "Grandfather, now that both of you have returned, don't you think you should discuss with Lord Mansion Master about using the soul-searching secret tactic on the Shu Jing, young Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion?" Zhao Ji wanted that Devil Dao cultivation method that Shu Jing cultivated. He even dreamed about it. "Jer, I know you want to cultivate that cultivation method, but no matter what, that cultivation method is still a Devil Dao cultivation method. Currently, we still have no idea what type of Devil Dao cultivation method it is. If it's the inhumane kind, it would be impossible for us to cultivate it even if we get our hands on it. For this reason, you must mentally prepare yourself for the worst-case scenario," Zhao Jin said. Zhao Ji remained noncommittal when he heard Zhao Jin's words. He said, "Grandfather, you just said it's still not certain. What if that Devil Dao cultivation method is those normal type?" "There's also this possibility." Zhao Jin nodded. When he looked at Zhao Ji again, a hint of fondness could be seen in his eyes. "Jer, how can I possibly not want to perform the soul-searching secret tactic on Shu Jing and obtain his cultivation method? However, currently, he's just too weak. Although we can perform the soul-searching secret tactic on him, his soul might not be able to endure it and shatter completely. Based on his injury, I think we'll need another 1.5 years, at least, before his soul recovers enough to endure the soul-searching secret tactic," Zhao Jin said. "A 1.5 years? That long?" Zhao Ji was disappointed. He was already getting tired of waiting. It did not cross his mind that he would have to wait for at least another 1.5 years. Upon seeing the disappointment on Zhao Ji's face, Zhao Jin's heart ached a little, so he quickly reassured him, "Jer, it's only a 1.5 years. It'll pass by in just a blink of an eye. In this 1.5 years, cultivate properly and strive to break through to the mastery refined saint stage. I promise you, if there's no problem with that Devil Dao cultivation method, I'll pass it to you immediately after I receive it." "Thank you, Grandfather." Zhao Ji forced a smile on his face. Suddenly, a figure he hated to the core appeared in his mind. Then, he said, "Ling Tian. Grandfather, the matter with the Rising Sky Mansion has been dealt with. So can we come up with ways to deal with Ling Tian now?" Zhao Ji's face immediately turned red from anger the moment he thought about Duan Ling Tian. His hatred toward him was etched deeply in his bones now. As long as Duan Ling Tian was still breathing, he would not be able to have a good night's sleep. Upon hearing Zhao Ji's words and sensing his hatred, the fondness in Zhao Jin's eyes disappeared immediately. It was replaced by a terrifying killing intent. "Don't worry, Jer, I promise you that Ling Tian won't be able to live for long." "Father," Zhao Deng chimed in at this moment, "I heard that Lord Mansion Master is using the force of the entire mystical sky mansion to search for some materials for Ling Tian. Although Lord Mansion Master did not accept him as his disciple, it seems he values him as much as he would value his own direct disciple. I know about this matter as well. However, Lord Mansion Master is only doing this because Ling Tian has rejected Lord Mansion Master's proposal to share that Devil Dao cultivation method with him and his master. Lord Mansion Master is only helping him due to his contribution regarding the Devil Dao cultivation method. Naturally, Zhao Jin was privy to more matters than Zhao Dang. Even if we're going to kill Ling Tian, we won't be doing it in the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate. We must think of a way to make him leave the estate before we make a move. As long as we're meticulous with our plan, no one will find out who killed him. Even if someone suspects us, they can't do anything without any evidence. The same applies to Lord Mansion Master. Zhao Jin said. When he spoke, his eyes brightened even more. Zhao Dang nodded. Zhao Ji, on the other hand, was so excited that his face was flushed. His eyes gleamed coldly as he said through clenched teeth, Ling Tian, you won't be able to live for long now. Nobody has ever survived my grandfather's assassination before. In the future, when you're on the way to the netherworld, you can only blame yourself for being unlucky. When you offended me, you've already been sentenced to death. Zhao Ji sentenced Duan Ling Tian to death in his heart. The Zhao clan was ruled by Zhao Jin, the guardian of the Mystical Sky Mansion. The person below him was his son, Zhao Dang. Following that would be the elders in Mystical Sky Mansion from the Zhao clan. Naturally, not all the elders from Zhao clan carried the surname Zhao. Most of them were actually unrelated to the Zhao clan, but since they were relying on Zhao Jin and Zhao Dang's power, they could be considered as part of the Zhao clan as well. Among these people, there was no lack of Zhao Jin and Zhao Dang's disciples as well. If everybody in the Zhao clan was grouped into a pyramid, Zhao Jin would be the one standing at the top of the pyramid. He was the leader of the Zhao clan. For this reason, his every word and action represented the will of Zhao clan. For example, if Zhao Jin, the guardian of the Mystical Sky Mansion, fell out with Meng Qing, the Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion, the Mystical Sky Mansion's elders and disciples from the Zhao clan would also stand behind Zhao Jin even if they carried a different surname. It was precisely because of the Zhao clan's united force that their position was above millions and was only under the Mansion Master. Come up with a method to lure Ling Tian away from the estate and kill him with a sneak attack. Soon after, the Mystical Sky Mansion's elders and the disciples on the Mystical Sky ranking from the Zhao clan each received the order given by Zhao Jin. Naturally, this was a secret order. Although Zhao Jin had an extremely high position in the Mystical Sky Mansion, he still did not dare to openly kill someone in the Mystical Sky Mansion. There was still the owner of the Mystical Sky Mansion, the Mansion Master, around. The Mansion Master was someone even he was wary of. Ling Tian, this name, isn't he widely acknowledged recently as the strongest person among the younger generation in our Mystical Sky Mansion? Many Mystical Sky Mansion's elders and disciples of the Zhao clan had been in closed-door cultivation for some time and had just come out. They had only heard that a monstrously talented martial cultivator below the age of 40 who had already reached the peak of the refined saint stage had joined the Mystical Sky Mansion. As for the dispute between that genius martial cultivator and their Zhao clan's little young master Zhao Ji, they had not heard about it yet. That's right, it's him. What did he do? To think Lord Guardian personally passed down an order to kill him. You must have just returned or come out from closed-door cultivation, right? Yeah, I just came out from my cultivation yesterday. No wonder, Ling Tian has offended our Zhao clan to the point they can be considered as mortal enemies. Lord Guardian has said that he would adopt whoever who successfully lures Ling Tian out of the estate and kill him. Seriously, adopted son or daughter? The adopted child of Lord Guardian would be brothers with Lord Zhao Dang. I've already confirmed this news so it's impossible for it to be fake. Looks like Lord Guardian really treats Ling Tian as his mortal enemy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made such a promise. Hurry, tell me, how did Ling Tian offend Lord Guardian and the Zhao clan? Ling Tian is really too much. Previously, he had publicly slapped young Master Ji twice in the summit of Heaven Palace. After that, he even eliminated young Master Ji from the Saint Martial secret zone after 3 days. Young Master Ji had yet to locate any divine ability relics, let alone divine abilities. No wonder. The Saint Martial secret zone is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Treating young Master Ji in such a manner is equivalent to ruining the future of our Zhao clan. Coupled with how fond Lord Guardian is of young Master Ji, who else would Lord Guardian kill if not Ling Tian? Soon after, everyone from the Zhao clan in the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate began to enthusiastically make their moves. After all, they would be able to become the adopted child of Guardian Zhao Jin if they managed to lure one person out of the estate before killing him. This was a good opportunity to rise up into the sky and become a phoenix. Naturally, no one was willing to give up this golden opportunity. Duan Lingtian was, naturally, unaware of all this. It was not only Duan Lingtian, but the others from the mystical Sky Mansion did not know about this as well. Although this news was widely spread among the mystical Sky Mansion's elders and disciples from the Zhao clan, it did not leak out at all. Based on this, one could see how powerful and united the Zhao clan was. It seemed as though there were no chinks in their armor at all. Many mystical Sky Mansion's elders and disciples from the Zhao clan began to make their way to the Heaven Palace where Duan Lingtian lived. However, they soon discovered he was in closed-door cultivation. They did not see him at all even after waiting for more than 2 weeks. Many people began to leave one by one. Naturally, there were some who remained. It was as though they would not rest until Duan Lingtian came out of closed-door cultivation. Another 2 weeks went by, there were hardly any people left from those who had remained behind. I guess I'll just wait until he comes out from closed-door cultivation before I come again to lure him out. Waiting here is just pointless. Moreover, this will only attract other people's attention. These were the thoughts of many Zhao clan's elders and disciples before they left. The very few people who remained behind, on the other hand, were all mystical Sky Mansion's disciples from the Zhao clan. Moreover, they were also at the early eminent saint stage. All of them wished to become guardian Zhao Jin's adopted son by killing Duan Lingtian. At that time, their position would rise quickly like a rocket. No matter how busy it was outside, Duan Lingtian remained in the 3rd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Currently, he was very close to breaking through to the intermediate refined saint stage already. If he was successful in breaking through, he would be an intermediate refined saint stage martial cultivator. At that time, his son True Origin would rise again to the level equivalent to the true origin of an intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouse. Once I break through, my strength won't be inferior to intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouses even if I don't rely on my brute strength or external tool. Not only that, but I'll be able to easily defeat most of the intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouses by relying on the profundity of the 2nd stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword's 2nd stage and the sword technique. Duan Lingtian began to feel more excited when he was on the verge of breaking through. At this moment, he was completely unaware there were many people waiting outside, wanting to kill him. Only by killing him would their position rise, and they would be able to make a name for themselves. Adopted son, adopted daughter. Zhao Ji, who was in closed-door cultivation for an entire month, finally came out. The first thing he heard was the promise his grandfather made to the mystical Sky Mansion's elders and disciples in the Zhao clan. He was momentarily stunned. I can't believe grandfather made such a promise for my sake. The moment Zhao Ji thought of this, a smirk appeared on his face. Lingtian, I'd like to see just how long you'll be able to live. This was the first time he had seen his grandfather going to such great lengths to kill someone. He believed his grandfather's promise was enough to tempt 90% of the people from the Zhao clan. They would even risk their lives for the sake of this promise. Soon after, Zhao Ji also learned it was his father's turn to monitor Xu Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. Currently, Xu Jing's souls had yet to recover, and he remained in a comatose state. He was also being locked in a secluded and secret room in the main mansion of the mystical Sky Mansion. The secret underground room was constantly being monitored by Vice Mansion Masters from the mystical Sky Mansion who took turns every month. With the Vice Mansion Masters of mystical Sky Mansion monitoring him, very few people in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land would be able to bring Xu Jing away. Moreover, if someone wanted to kidnap Xu Jing, the Vice Mansion Masters were only the final obstacle. That person would have to go through many elders and disciples who patrolled around the main mansion of mystical Sky Mansion. As for this month, Zhao Ji's father happened to be on duty. Since I have nothing to do, I might as well go see Xu Jing. It seems like I've met him once before. However, since he's only a mere 4th-rate forces young mansion master, I did not pay any attention to him. In the mystical Sky Mansion, it was extremely hard for an ordinary person to enter the secret underground room, but it was easy for Zhao Ji to enter the room. This was because he was the little young master of Zhao clan. Even the patrolling elders and disciples around the main mansion of mystical Sky Mansion and the guards inside the main mansion had no choice but to give in to Zhao Ji in consideration of guardian Zhao Jin and Vice Mansion Master Zhao Dang. Fatha, for this reason, Zhao Ji arrived outside of the door of the underground secret room unobstructed. Before he could even finish calling out for his father, someone had appeared out of thin air, emitting terrifying killing intent. Horror dawned on Zhao Ji when he felt the killing intent aimed at him, and he quickly said, "Father, it's me." "Jer, why are you here? Aren't you in closed-door cultivation?" The person who had appeared out of thin air outside the secret underground room was none other than one of the mystical Sky Mansion's vice mansion masters. It was Zhao Ji's father, Zhao Dang. Zhao Dang quickly withdrew the killing intent on his body when he saw it was his son. "Father, I just came out of closed-door cultivation, and when I heard you're here, I decided to come see you." Zhao Ji chuckled. "That's a lie, right? The truth is you came to see Xu Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, right?" Zhao Dang was Zhao Ji's father. How could he not know what his son was thinking? Zhao Ji chuckled awkwardly. "Did you achieve anything during your closed-door cultivation this time?" Zhao Dang asked. "I'll definitely be able to break through to the Mastery Refined Saint stage during the next closed-door cultivation," Zhao Ji said solemnly and sincerely. "Oh," Zhao Dang's eyes lit up immediately as he nodded. "Not bad. You should be able to break through to the Mastery Refined Saint stage before Gao Peng from the Heaven Palace does, although it can't be compared to Ling Tian, it's still quite good." Zhao Dang had subconsciously blurted out the last sentence. The moment the words left his mouth, he immediately knew he had said the wrong thing. As expected, he saw Zhao Ji's expression turned grim immediately. He quickly tried to mend the situation. "Ling Tian won't be able to live for long. I'm sure you've already heard about your grandfather's order and the promise he made, right? He didn't even ask for my opinion and arbitrarily decided to find me a sibling just to seek revenge for you." When Zhao Dang reached the end of his sentence, he could not help but sigh as well. It looked like his position as a son in his father's heart was inferior to his own son. However, it was his own son after all, so Zhao Dang was not jealous. He only sighed emotionally. With grandfather's order and promise, Ling Tian will definitely die. Zhao Ji's eyes flashed coldly with killing intent. Chapter 1802. The secret underground room was very neat and tidy. Other than a stone bed, there was nothing else at all. An unconscious young man lay on the stone bed. If Duan Ling Tian was here, he would be able to identify this young man as Xu Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, whom he had killed by piercing the space between his brows during the Rising Sky ranking battle. Xu Jing was lying on the stone bed motionlessly. "Father, can we wake him up now?" Zhao Ji could not help but ask Zhao Dang as he stood next to the stone bed. His eyes shone greedily when he looked at Xu Jing, who was lying on the bed. Those who were not in the know might even think Zhao Ji was homosexual and was interested in Xu Jing based on his gaze. Naturally, Zhao Ji's gaze was like that because he was interested in the top-rated Devil Dao cultivation method stored in Xu Jing's mind. No. Upon hearing Zhao Ji's words, Zhao Dang shook his head. Currently, the only thing keeping him alive is the remnants of his soul. We must wait until his soul has recovered before we can wake him up. At the very least, his soul has to recover by at least 80% before he can even wake up. Then is he aware of what's happening around him? Zhao Ji asked again. He should be. Zhao Dang nodded. However, I've tried to communicate with his soul through voice transmission, but I didn't get any response at all. I don't know whether it's because he had intentionally ignored me or he just couldn't hear my voice transmission. Voice transmission. Zhao Ji's eyes lit up immediately. "Father, you mean divine consciousness voice transmission?" In the Dao Martial Saint land, those at the Saint stage possessed an extra technique to their voice transmission. Before breaking through to the Saint stage, one could only use their own strength to transmit their voices. However, once they had broken through to the Saint stage, they could use their divine consciousness that was transformed from their spiritual energy to transmit their voices. This type of voice transmission was called the divine consciousness voice transmission. It was commonly used by powerhouses above the Saint stage to transmit their voices. Yes. Zhao Dang nodded again. Although his soul is very weak, it should not hinder his awareness of the outer world. By right, he should be able to use his weak divine consciousness to transmit his voice. This time, Zhao Ji did not continue to talk. Instead, he stared at Xu Jing with a burning gaze. At the same time, his divine consciousness extended out into Xu Jing's mind as he transmitted his voice. "Xu Jing, do you remember me? I'm Zhao Ji from the mystical Sky Mansion. We've met once a few years back." Zhao Ji's voice was transmitted to Xu Jing, but he did not receive any response. However, he did not give up. "Xu Jing, I know that you're aware of your surroundings, and you must already know that it's mystical Sky Mansion that annihilated your Rising Sky Mansion. Moreover, I'm sure you know our mystical sky mansion is after the top-rated devil Dao cultivation method you cultivated." Although there was no response from Xu Jing, Zhao Ji continued talking to him. At the same time, Zhao Ji's divine consciousness could clearly sense that the remnants of Xu Jing's soul had flickered faintly. He became certain that Xu Jing was already aware of his surroundings. "Did you know how our mystical sky mansion found out that you've cultivated a top-rated devil Dao cultivation method?" Zhao Ji continued to communicate with Xu Jing through his divine consciousness voice transmission. However, this time, the remnants of Xu Jing's soul did not show any movement. It was apparent that he was on guard now and did not make the mistake he had made earlier. "I know you must be very curious about this. Let me tell you, the reason our mystical sky mansion found out you're cultivating a top-rated devil Dao cultivation method is all thanks to Li Feng." Li Feng. The moment Zhao Ji's words left his mouth, his divine consciousness could sense the movement on the remnants of Xu Jing's soul again. Moreover, it seemed that he was getting agitated. "In the eyes of the people, you're killed by Li Feng. However, Li Feng had taken possession of your spatial ring. I'm certain when he failed to claim blood ownership on your spatial ring, he knows you're still alive and that you must have cultivated a devil Dao cultivation method that contains the soul congregation technique." Zhao Ji said in his voice transmission, "A devil Dao cultivation method that contains the soul congregation technique would usually be a top-rated one, am I right? Li Feng's from your mystical sky mansion." Finally, a voice seething with anger entered Zhao Ji's divine consciousness. The person who transmitted the voice through divine consciousness to Zhao Ji was none other than Xu Jing, who was lying on the bed. When Zhao Ji mentioned Li Feng, he could no longer suppress his emotion. In the end, he no longer bothered to conceal himself anymore. "Li Feng's not from our mystical sky mansion, but his junior brother is. His junior brother is an enemy of mine." Zhao Ji was not surprised when he heard Xu Jing's words. The reason he mentioned Li Feng earlier was to infuriate Xu Jing. After all, Xu Jing had ended up in such a wretched state because of Li Feng. As it turned out, Zhao Ji was successful. Xu Jing had taken the bait. He was the one who gave the information about you possessing a top-rated devil Dao cultivation method to the mystical sky mansion. Although that fellow did not make any move at all from the beginning until the end to capture you, most of the credit goes to him since he was the one who had provided the information. Zhao Ji transmitted his voice calmly. "Li Feng's junior brother." Xu Jing's voice was filled with rage. It was as though he wanted to personally kill Li Feng's junior brother. "That's right, Li Feng's junior brother." Zhao Ji continued to transmit his voice. "He's called Ling Tian, and he has the same master as Li Feng. I'm afraid there's no hope for you if you plan to seek revenge from Li Feng because he has already gone to the upper province. However, it won't be difficult if you want to seek revenge from Ling Tian." "Seek revenge from him? Aren't all of you from the mystical sky mansion? Are you toying with me?" Xu Jing snorted. "That's right, we're both from the mystical sky mansion, but despite being a part of the mystical sky mansion, he's my enemy. My mortal enemy. If you want to kill him to vent your anger and indirectly seek revenge from Li Feng, we can work together," Zhao Ji replied. "Work together with you? How?" Xu Jing asked as though he was curious and was looking forward to hearing what Zhao Ji had to say. "Before we work together, I'd like to know first whether the top-rated devil Dao cultivation method you cultivated is the normal type or the inhumane type." Zhao Ji asked. This was something he had always wanted to know. "Since you already know that I cultivated a top-rated devil Dao cultivation method, I'm sure you must have heard that it only took me a year for my cultivation base to break through to the peak of the refined saint stage from the early refined saint stage. Do you think that a normal devil Dao cultivation method would be able to do that?" Xu Jing replied. "Then, what kind of inhumane things you need to do to cultivate that top-rated devil Dao cultivation method?" Zhao Ji asked again. Hee, nothing much. I just have to devour the vital energies and blood of young women until they turn into dried corpses. If there are enough virgin girls, I'll be able to yield twice the result with half the effort if I devour their vital energies and blood to cultivate. My cultivation base rose so quickly in that 1 year was because of devoured many vital energies and blood of young virgin girls to cultivate. Naturally, all of them turned into dried corpses in the end." When Xu Jing spoke, he fondly recalled the memory of that time. When Zhao Ji heard his words, he could not help but feel chills running up his spine. At the same time, a thought appeared in his mind, shocking him. He asked through voice transmission, "Why does the method you described sound similar to the cultivation method of a devil Dao powerhouse who appeared many years ago in the lower province? Don't tell me the method you cultivated is the devouring dark devil technique." The devouring dark devil technique was a devil Dao cultivation method that incited fear in the people in the lower province of the Dao martial Saint Land many years ago. At that time, a devil Dao powerhouse who had cultivated this devil technique had run rampant for a period of time. In the end, after incurring the wrath of the public, he was attacked by many elite powerhouses from the lower province. Finally, he ran to the upper province of the Dao martial Saint Land, heavily injured. Although many years had gone by, the devil Dao powerhouse's deeds were still remembered by the quasi-third-rate forces. The devouring dark devil technique he had cultivated became very famous as well. It was exactly because of this, Zhao Ji knew it was the devouring dark devil technique. It's surprising you know about the devouring dark devil technique. That's right, the one that I cultivate is the devouring dark devil technique. Come to think of it, what I obtained is the legacy of that devil Dao powerhouse who ran rampant in the lower province many years ago, Xu Jing replied. If I'm not mistaken, the strongest person in your Rising Sky mansion was killed by that devil Dao powerhouse, right? It was precisely because the strongest person in your Rising Sky mansion was killed that your Rising Sky mansion began to decline into a fourth-rate force after several generations. Zhao Ji also knew about this history. Speaking of, that devil Dao powerhouse who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique is your Rising Sky mansion's mortal enemy. How did you manage to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique? How could those old fellows from the Rising Sky mansion allow you to cultivate their mortal enemy's devouring dark devil technique? They didn't know I cultivated the devouring dark devil technique. As for myself, I don't really care what kind of devil technique it is. As long as it could raise my strength in a short time, then I consider it a good cultivation technique. I can't be bothered with the others, and I don't give a damn at all. Xu Jing spoke without restraint. It had also affected Zhao Ji to a certain extent. Xu Jing. After a while, Zhai Ji transmitted his voice to Xu Jing. A year and a half later, somebody will perform the soul-searching secret tactic on you. At that time, the devil technique you cultivated will belong to the mystical Sky Mansion. Due to the reason that it's the devouring dark devil technique, the mansion master of mystical Sky Mansion will never allow anyone to cultivate it. At that time, you'll be killed. When Zhao Ji reached this part of his sentence, he tried to tempt Xu Jing. How about this? Let's make a deal. You pass that devouring dark devil technique to me now, and after you die, I'll kill Li Feng's junior brother, Ling Tian, to seek revenge for you. What do you think? The moment his words left his mouth, Xu Jing did not reply immediately. After a few moments, he finally replied through voice transmission, I must admit your suggestion sounds pretty tempting, but on what basis should I believe in you? Chapter 1803. Why should you believe me? Zhao Ji was momentarily taken aback when he heard Xu Jing's words before he calmly replied, well, you can only believe me since you have no other choice. Initially, Zhao Ji had thought Xu Jing would panic after hearing his words and would be led by the nose by him. Who knew his words did not affect Xu Jing at all? No choice. So be it. Put aside that Ling Tian might not even be Li Feng's junior brother, even if he really is, the one I want to seek revenge from is Li Feng. Although I'll be happy if Ling Tian dies, it means nothing to me the moment I think of how Li Feng is still alive. Xu Jing was extremely calm. It was as though he did not care whether Li Feng's junior brother, Ling Tian, was dead or alive. Zhao Ji was dumbfounded. It was apparent that everything was progressing differently from what he had in mind. It should not be like this. You want to use Ling Tian in exchange for my devouring dark devil technique. That's just wishful thinking. If I'm not mistaken, you're just worried the people from Mystical Sky Mansion will hide the devouring dark devil technique and forbid people from cultivating it after they discover this through the soul-searching secret tactic, right? Xu Jing continued to say to Zhao Ji through voice transmission, you want to obtain the devouring dark devil technique from me because you want to cultivate it despite knowing the world will condemn you. I can't believe the noble son of the Vice Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion would choose such a corrupt method for the sake of power. As expected of the young Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion. You're smart. Zhao Ji's expression was extremely grim. However, the only chance of him obtaining the devouring dark devil technique was in front of him, he was unwilling to give up. Once the soul-searching secret tactic was performed on Xu Jing, the devouring dark devil technique would be revealed to the others as well. At that time, Meng Qing, the Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion, would definitely seal and destroy the devouring dark devil technique. He would not allow anyone to cultivate it. Although the cultivation method of the devouring dark devil technique was inhumane, to Zhao Ji, power was the most important thing. The ways to obtain power, to him, did not matter to him at all. For this reason, he was desperate to obtain the devouring dark devil technique. Tell me, what do I have to do for you to pass the devouring dark devil technique to me? Zhao Ji asked without beating around the bush after he took a deep breath. It's very easy if you want me to pass the devouring dark devil technique to you. If you get me out of here, I'll slowly pass the devouring dark devil technique to you, Xu Jing stated his condition through his voice transmission. Impossible. Zhao Ji did not expect Xu Jing to make such a ridiculous demand. Get Xu Jing out of here. What a joke. Even if he was the grandson of Zhao Jin, the guardian of Mystical Sky Mansion and the son of Zhao Dang, the vice mansion master of Mystical Sky Mansion, it was still impossible for him to save Xu Jing and get him out of here unless his grandfather or father was willing to help him. However, this was impossible. Zhao Ji knew very well that although his grandfather and father doted on him a lot, they would instantly stop him if he said he wanted to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique. It was not that his grandfather and father were compassionate people. It was because they would worry that he would become the public's enemy after he cultivated the devouring dark devil technique. The powerhouse who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique previously was someone everyone wanted to kill. According to rumors, after he went to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, his life there was not any better. In the end, he could only tuck his tail between his legs and behave accordingly. If that's the case, there's no need for us to speak anymore. I'll just wait for the Mystical Sky Mansion's powerhouses to perform the soul-searching secret tactic on me after my soul recovers. Xu Jing continued to transmit his voice to Zhao Ji. Based on his words, it seemed pretty bold, as though he was a dead pig that did not fear boiling water. You should know it's extremely difficult for me to save you with my strength, can't you change your condition? Zhao Ji asked in a deep voice. However, Xu Jing ignored him. Xu Jing's lack of response was also a type of response. He was not going to change his condition. If he could save him and get him out of here, he would be able to obtain the devouring dark devil technique. If he could not, then he would not be able to obtain it. After calling out to Xu Jing a few times, he still did not respond. Zhao Ji's expression turned grim immediately. What's wrong? Could it be that Xu Jing has responded when you transmitted your voice to him? Zhao Dang's eyes lit up, and there was a slightly excited expression on his face when he saw Zhao Ji's expression suddenly turned grim. The moment Zhao Dang spoke, Zhao Ji regained his senses. As though he was injected with a boost of courage, he raised his hand and smacked Xu Jing's head. Damn it, how dare you ignore me? What are you doing? Zhao Dang was horrified when he saw his son's action. He quickly made a move to stop Zhao Ji from attacking Xu Jing. Are you crazy? If you kill him, not only would Lord Mansion Master not let you go, but you'll also make yourself the enemy of the group of high-ranking officials in the Mystical Sky Mansion. If that happens, you'll have no chance of becoming the Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion at all, no matter how high your achievements are. Zhao Dang's voice was filled with anger when he reached the end of his sentence. Father, I'm sorry. Meanwhile, Zhao Ji seemed contrite as he lowered his head and accepted his father's scolding and admitted his fault. But, Father, he must be pretending to sleep. Although his soul is not intact, it shouldn't stop him from communicating with people. When Zhao Ji reached the end of his sentence, he even had an aggrieved and indignant expression on his face, as though he did not manage to communicate with Xu Jing at all. He had acted this way because he did not want his father to know that he had successfully communicated with Xu Jing. After all, the topic of their conversation was objectionable. Xu Jing, who had remained quiet for a long time, suddenly said mockingly through voice transmission, as expected of young Master Zhao Ji. Look at how smoothly you lied to your father. If I'm your father, I'll definitely be so angered that I'll throw up 3 liters of blood if I find out about your lies. Xu Jing, don't be so smug. I might not be able to come up with a way to rescue you from here. If I can't find a way, you'll definitely die. Zhao Ji transmitted his voice. If even young Master Zhao Ji can't come up with a way, then I guess I can only accept my fate, Xu Jing said calmly, as though he was not worried whether he lived or died. It was as though he was above all worldly affairs. There's nothing we can do even if he's faking it. Moreover, he won't be able to fake it for long anyway. We'll have to wait 1.5 years at most before we perform the soul-searching secret tactic on him. Once our Mystical Sky Mansion has obtained the Devil Dao cultivation method that he cultivated, his life would end as well. Zhao Ji did not suspect his son at all. Instead, he took the initiative to calm his son down. There's no reason for you to fuss over a dead man. Okay, Zhao Ji nodded and put on an expression as though he agreed with his father before bidding him farewell. Father, it's not good for me to stay here for so long. I'll take my leave first. Sure, go ahead. After Zhao Deng sent his son out of the secret underground, only then did he return. Zhao Ji, who had just left the secret underground room, on the other hand, was trying to come up with a way. What kind of method can I use to rescue Xu Jing from the secret underground room in the mystical sky mansion? No matter what, I must get my hands on the devouring dark devil technique. Once I've cultivated it, my strength will definitely rise quickly. Xu Jing's innate talent is much inferior to mine, but it only took him a year to break through to the peak of the refined saint stage from the early refined saint stage. If it were me, I definitely won't fare any worse than him. Currently, Zhao Ji was completely obsessed with the devouring dark devil technique. When Zhao Ji was racking his brain for ways to get Xu Jing out, Duan Lingtian had just exited the third level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and opened his room door. As soon as he opened his door, his extended divine consciousness and immediately sensed someone spying on him in the dark. Moreover, there was more than one person. People from the Zhao clan. Apart from the Zhao clan, Duan Lingtian really could not think of anyone who would lurk in the dark and spy on him. You finally came out from closed-door cultivation. Duan Lingtian was about to look for Ji Yuli when a voice sounded. The owner of the voice was a woman. In the distant, the figure that accompanied the voice was a beautiful and graceful figure that was seductive with the appearance of an angel. Everything seemed dim in her surrounding. This person was none other than Wang Feizan. Where have you been before this? Duan Lingtian smiled. After the Saint Martial secret zone closed, you left with the palace master. I didn't see you since then. What, did you miss me? Wang Feizan's autumn eyes lit up immediately as it landed on Duan Lingtian. No, I'm just not used to it. I'll also find it hard to get used to if a fly that usually circles around me suddenly goes missing. One must admit that Duan Lingtian's metaphor was very descriptive. However, upon hearing his metaphor, Wang Feizan's expression turned grave immediately. So, you're saying, I may fly? I didn't say that. Duan Lingtian shrugged. I'm not going to be responsible for you jumping to your own conclusion. Wang Feizan glared at Duan Lingtian in annoyance as she said, I went to cultivate at the spirit pool some time ago. As expected of the Heaven Palace's spirit pool, it's indeed a great place. I feel like my cultivation base is close to breaking through to the mastery refined saint stage. I'll definitely break through in a year or two. Naturally, if I can enter the spirit pool again within this year, I'm confident I'll be able to successfully break through to the mastery refined saint stage in a year. When Wang Feizan reached the end of her sentence, the confidence she emitted seemed to affect Duan Lingtian as well. Congratulations. Duan Lingtian congratulated her. He was very clear that Wang Feizan, who had been taken in by Zhu Luqi, the palace master of Heaven Palace, as his disciple would definitely have a smooth journey ahead. He was very happy for her from the bottom of his heart. After all, he had already regarded her as his friend. It was only natural to be happy and concerned about one's friend. Wang Feizan had been congratulated many times. However, when Duan Lingtian congratulated her, it was as though she was bathed in a spring breeze. Chapter 1804. It doesn't seem very peaceful here, Wang Feizan said to Duan Lingtian as soon as she sensed the presence of the few people lurking in the dark. Indeed, it's not very peaceful, Duan Lingtian nodded. He had long sensed those few people, but he just did not point it out. They must be from the Zhao clan. Based on the auras in their bodies, I can tell they're above the eminent saint stage. Looks like the Zhao clan is about to make their move on you, Wang Feizan said solemnly, you better be careful from now on. She was worried about Duan Lingtian. Don't worry, Duan Lingtian shook his head with a nonchalant expression on his face. Even if they're from the Zhao clan, they won't dare to openly make a move on me in the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate. After all, with the rules the mansion master of Mystical Sky Mansion had set in place, they won't be so daring to break the rules for my sake. Well, you have a point, but even a cornered dog will desperately leap over a wall. You must not leave the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate during this time to avoid any accidents. Wang Feizan reminded him. Based on her tone, it was as though she was more worried about Duan Lingtian's safety than Duan Lingtian himself. Rest assured, I have something I have to do, so I don't have the time to leave the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate, Duan Lingtian replied. This was the truth. The reason he came out of closed-door cultivation today was to look for Ji Yuli to see how many materials that he needed to repair the 4th level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda had been found by Ji Yuli and his father. At the same time, since he had the help from Meng Qing, the mansion master of Mystical Sky Mansion, he also wanted to know how many materials they had found. Meng Qing had given out orders upon orders to help Duan Lingtian look for the materials, and after these materials were sent back to the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate, they were all sent to Ji Yuli before Duan Lingtian would get it from him. This was also suggested by Duan Lingtian to Meng Qing previously. After all, no matter what, Meng Qing was the mansion master of Mystical Sky Mansion. It was impossible for him to personally deal with the matter of gathering Duan Lingtian's materials. For the foreseeable future, Duan Lingtian had no plans to go out at all. First, it was because he wanted to send the materials into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda so that Elder Huo could repair the 4th level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Second, it was because he was already on the brink of a breakthrough. He just needed a little more push to successfully break through to the intermediate refined saint stage. Once he had broken through to the intermediate refined saint stage, his strength and ability would rise as well. Upon hearing that Duan Lingtian had no time to leave the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate, Wang Feizan breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, she could not help but ask, "Where are you heading?" She could see that Duan Lingtian was about to leave the Heaven Palace. "I'm going to the main mansion to look for senior brother Ji Yuli," Duan Lingtian replied. "All right, I won't disturb you. Go ahead, I should go back and cultivate so that I can break through as quickly as possible." Wang Feizan nodded. After she bade Duan Lingtian farewell, she watched until his silhouette had disappeared from her sight before she finally regained her senses. She had a dazed look in her eyes. What a blockhead! After she looked away, she felt a little frustrated and threw a little tantrum. I wonder how he managed to pursue his 2 fiancés and his girlfriend. Don't tell me they were the ones who pursued him. Wang Feizan stomped her feet before she returned to her residence. The moment she left, the few Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples from the Zhao clan lurking in the dark immediately flew in the direction where Duan Lingtian was headed and followed him from afar. "Oh, they're following me now." Duan Lingtian immediately sensed the few tails behind him. He frowned slightly but did not bother with them. If a fight broke out, he would not be at a disadvantage. However, he would not be able to teach them a serious lesson as well since the rules in Mystical Sky Mansion stated there would no killings or cripplings of disciples in the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate. Whoever violated the rule would be severely punished. He's not leaving the estate. When they saw Duan Lingtian entering the main mansion and had no intention of leaving the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate, they were disappointed. Although their spirits were slightly dampened, they still followed him from afar. Only when he had gone to the northeast side of the main mansion that they finally came to a halt. "Isn't that where Guardian Gu's residence is located? Ji Yuli lives there as well. I've long heard that Lingtian has a close relationship with Ji Yuli. Looks like he doesn't have any intention of leaving the Mystical Sky Mansion after coming out from closed-door cultivation. He merely came here to look for Ji Yuli." The Mystical Sky Mansion's guardian, Ji Yu Siyun, was someone who was on equal footing with Zhao Ji, the leader of their Zhao clan. Even if their courage were multiplied by 100, they would not dare to go near Guardian Gu's residence. After waiting for a long time, Duan Lingtian still did not come out, so a few people began to leave. Meanwhile, news of Duan Lingtian coming out of closed-door cultivation swept through the Zhao clan like a hurricane. The entire Zhao clan was in a commotion. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of all of this. At this moment, he had just taken the spatial ring that Ji Yuli handed over to him. The things contained in the spatial ring were the materials that the entire Mystical Sky Mansion helped him to gather. These were the material needed to repair the 4th level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. "Junior brother Lingtian, if it wasn't for Mansion Master's help, just me and my father alone won't be able to gather 1/10 of the materials inside in such a short time." After Ji Yuli passed the spatial ring to Duan Lingtian, he sighed emotionally. "No matter what, I still need to thank you, senior brother Ji Yuli." "That's right, senior brother Ji Yuli. Where's Uncle Ji Yu? Why haven't I seen him?" Since the beginning, Duan Lingtian did not see Ji Yu Siyun at all. "My father has just gone out some time ago. He should be back in a few days' time." "Why, are you looking for him?" Ji Yuli asked. "No." Duan Lingtian shook his head. "It's just a casual question." "Oh, Yeah, senior brother Ji Yuli, how's your cultivation base progressing? Duan Lingtian changed the topic. Ji Yuli had told him before that he would leave the mystical sky mansion once he had broken through to the divine saint stage and leave the lower province of the Tao Martial Saint land and carve a place for himself in the upper province. Currently, Ji Yuli's cultivation base had already reached the peak of the eminent saint stage, and he was merely a step away from the divine saint stage. It's still the same, I think I'll need almost 2 years before I can make a breakthrough. Ji Yuli smiled. Junior brother Lingtian, hurry up and break through to the eminent saint stage. At that time, since you also plan to look for your master in the upper province, we can accompany each other. Since I'm with you, you can go to the upper province before you break through to the divine saint stage. How's that? Of course. Duan Lingtian smiled and nodded. If he was given another 2 years' time, and he was able to grasp another opportunity or two to enter the spirit pool, it would not be difficult for him to break through make to the eminent saint stage. It was also because Ji Yuli had no idea Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was merely at the early refined saint stage. Otherwise, he would have been very shocked. Everyone in the mystical sky mansion, including Ji Yuli, thought Duan Lingtian was at the peak of the refined saint stage and that he was only a step away from the eminent saint stage. Now that he had promised Ji Yuli to go to the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint land, Duan Lingtian felt a slight pressure. For this reason, he soon bade Ji Yuli farewell and returned to his residence. As soon as he returned to his room, he entered the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda and threw the spatial ring that was filled with materials to Elder Huo. Elder Huo, these are the materials needed to repair the 4th level of the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. This is only the first batch. There will be more coming in the future, so please don't hesitate to use them all. Duan Lingtian believed that since the entire mystical sky mansion was helping him to look for the materials, other than a few rare materials, he would be able to obtain the remaining materials. As for those rare materials, it would have to depend on his luck. After Elder Huo took the materials away, he quickly went to repair the 4th level of the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, also returned to the 3rd level to continue his cultivation. Perhaps, it was due to pressure from the promise he made with Ji Yuli, it only took Duan Lingtian 10 days to successfully break through to the intermediate refined saint stage. 10 days inside the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda was equivalent to 2 days outside. After he had broken through to the intermediate refined saint stage, the Sun True Origin in Duan Lingtian's body turned stronger as well. It was currently comparable to the true origin of an ordinary intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouse. As Duan Lingtian continued to cultivate, he encountered an obstacle. At this moment, he took out the Jasper Celestial Sword and further comprehend the profundity of the Supreme Sword Tao mental cultivation method, the Sword Shadowed Heart, through the Jasper Celestial Sword. The Sword Shadowed Heart, the 2nd stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, also began to turn stronger as he slowly inched toward the 3rd stage. It has already been a month now, don't tell me he plans to go into closed-door cultivation again. Meanwhile, the disciples from the Zhao clan waiting outside of Duan Lingtian's door felt as though they were about to go crazy. Is Lingtian even human? He just came out from closed-door cultivation, and now he's going into closed-door cultivation again. Could it be that he did not encounter any obstacles at all when he cultivates? Many Zhao clan progeny's disciples were slightly speechless. Their aim was to lure Lingtian out of the mystical sky mansion's estate and then kill him. However, Lingtian was always in closed-door cultivation. No matter how many plans they came up with in their minds, they could not do anything at all. They could only wait for Lingtian to come out of his closed-door cultivation before they could proceed to the next step. Time passed by quickly in a blink of an eye. A few months had gone by, and it had already been a year since Duan Lingtian joined the mystical sky mansion. From the day Duan Lingtian entered closed-door cultivation until now, he had no intention of coming out yet. The group of Zhao clan's disciples who were eager to contribute to this meritorious deed was burning with anxiety. However, there was nothing they could do at all. At this moment, a piece of shocking news quickly spread from the main mansion to the ears of the mystical sky mansion's high-ranking officials. This, naturally, only referred to those who at least held the positions of vice-mansion masters. What is going on? In the secret underground room, the face of Meng Qing, the mansion master of mystical sky mansion, was expressionless as he looked at the empty stone bed. However, the people present on the scene could tell from his tone how furious he was. Where's Palace Master Zhu? At the same time, one of the vice mansion masters of Mystical Sky Mansion noticed that only the palace master of Heaven Palace, Zhu Luqi, was not present. Who's supposed to be on duty? Meng Qing asked in a deep voice. It seems to be Palace Master Zhu, another Mystical Sky Mansion's vice mansion master replied. Chapter 1805. The group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials, including Mansion Master Meng Qing, rushed here because they heard Xu Jing had been rescued from this place. However, when they arrived, they realized another person had also gone missing. Moreover, it happened to be the person who was supposed to be on duty. It was none other than Zhu Luqi, the Palace Master of Heaven Palace. Lord Mansion Master, Lord Mansion Master. As the atmosphere in the secret underground room turned tensed, a harried voice sounded from outside. Jer. Upon hearing this familiar voice, Zhao Jin and Zhao Deng exchanged glances. They could see the astonishment in each other's eyes. Why did he come now? Soon after, Zhao Ji appeared in front of the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials, gasping for breath. Jer, why did you come here for? This is not a place where you should come. Zhao Deng said angrily as he glared at Zhao Ji. It was acceptable for him to come when Zhao Deng was on duty previously. However, the mansion master and the others were present today. Moreover, the atmosphere was not very good at the moment. He was afraid his son's presence would further infuriate the mansion master. At this moment, Zhao Jin also said, Jer, listen to me. Go back. Lord Mansion Master. However, Zhao Ji ignored his grandfather and father. His eyes were focused on Meng Qing, who was looking at him with a grim expression. I saw Palace Master Zhu of Heaven Palace bringing a person with him as he headed north. A few patrolling elders and more than 10 patrolling disciples were all injured by him. Swish, swish, swish. The moment his words left his mouth, the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials, including Meng Qing, turned horrified immediately. This is an inside job. At this moment, these 5 words appeared in the minds of the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials. Whoosh! Meng Qing disappeared like a gust of wind before the crowd's eyes. Let's go. Jiu Xiyun and Zhao Jin, the 2 guardians of Mystical Sky Mansion, also left, and the remaining vice mansion masters followed suit. With a raise of his hand, Zhao Deng brought Zhao Ji along with him. As he followed the crowd, he asked, Jer, did you really see clearly? Did Palace Master Zhu really bring a man in the north direction? Father, I really don't dare to joke when it comes to matters like this. Currently, the patrolling elders should be on their way here as well, Zhao Ji said solemnly. Father, is the man that Palace Master Zhu brought with him Xu Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion? Yes. Zhao Deng's eyes gleamed coldly. I can't believe Zhu Luqi is actually so bold. To think he actually dared to bring Xu Jing away. It seems like he has obtained information regarding the Devil Dao cultivation method from Xu Jing. That Devil Dao cultivation method is most likely the inhumane kind of cultivation method. In just a blink of an eye, Zhao Deng quickly came to a conclusion. This shocked Zhao Ji and made him break out in cold sweat. On the way there, the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials led by Mansion Master Meng Qing encountered a Mystical Sky Mansion's elder who came from the north. This Mystical Sky Mansion's elder was pale, and it was obvious that he had suffered quite a serious injury. Lord Mansion Master, Palace Master Zhu had forcefully brought Xu Jing away and injured us. This is the jade token he asked me to pass to you, Lord Mansion Master. After the Mystical Sky Mansion's elder saw Meng Qing, he quickly passed the jade token in his hand to him. Meng Qing took the jade token with a grim expression on his face before activating the energy in his body and infused it into the jade token. He did not bother to conceal the message in the jade token. Lord Mansion Master, the cultivation method that Xu Jing cultivated is the devouring dark devil technique that was infamous in the lower province many years ago. Even if the Mystical Sky Mansion obtains such a brutal and wicked cultivation method, it's destined to be sealed away. For this reason, I've taken Xu Jing away since I need the devouring dark devil technique. Only by cultivating the devouring dark devil technique I'll be able to wash away the shame that Feng Biyuyi brought me. Zhu Luqi's voice resonated in the air. Initially, I thought it would be impossible for me to seek revenge from Feng Biyuyi in this life. However, the devouring dark devil technique has given me hope. I've pondered over it for a long time and finally decided to bring Xu Jing away so that I can master the devouring dark devil technique. Don't worry, Lord Mansion Master, After I've mastered the devouring dark devil technique, I'll find a way to get rid of Xu Jing since he's a great threat to our mystical sky mansion. From today onward, I, Zhu Luqi, will leave the mystical sky mansion. Whatever I do in the future has absolutely nothing to do with the mystical sky mansion. I hope Lord Mansion Master won't make things difficult for my disciples for my sake, if not then for the contributions to the mystical sky mansion and heaven palace I've made in the past. They're all innocent, and I've let them down. Zhu Luqi's voice also came to an end here. Devouring dark devil technique. At this moment, everyone on the scene, except Zhao Ji, turned pale and bewildered. To them, the devouring dark devil technique was a legendary cultivation method. Its cultivation process was inhumane and barbarous, causing people to shudder. The devil cultivator who once cultivated this devil technique had also become the public's enemy. There was no place for him in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land at all. However, even when that devil cultivator was attacked on all sides and was surrounded and pursued by many elite powerhouses in the lower province, he still managed to kill many powerhouses at the peak of the exemplary saint stage just by relying on his cultivation base that was also at the peak of the exemplary saint stage. As for the other powerhouses who were killed by him, there were so many of them that it was completely uncountable. That battle could be considered as one of the biggest battles in many years in the lower province. Even then, the devil cultivator who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique was not killed. He managed to escape to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land although he was heavily injured. Ever since then, that devil cultivator had become infamous in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Naturally, this infamous person was cursed by the later generations since he had cruelly killed countless young women while he cultivated the devouring dark devil technique. Each and every young woman who was alive had their vital energy and blood devoured by him until they became dried corpses. His crime had already reached a level where it roused the anger of immortals and mortals alike. It was precisely because of the commotion caused by that devil cultivator that the devouring dark devil technique that he cultivated was also well known. Everyone in that generation treated it as a great scourge. Even after so many years had passed, the infamy of this devil Dao cultivation method, the devouring dark devil technique, was even known by the later generations. It was only natural that the mystical sky mansion's high-ranking officials had heard of this cultivation method as well. It was precisely because of this, they were bewildered when they found out the cultivation method that Xu Jing cultivated was actually the devouring dark devil technique. Idiot! Senior brother Zhu is an idiot. In the end, Qian Ping Sheng, the palace master of Yellow Palace, who regained his senses first said with a grim expression, even if he has obtained the devouring dark devil technique, he would become the public's enemy in the entire lower province and the entire Dao Martial Saint Land in the future. Is this even worth it just for the sake of that small dispute he had with Feng Biyuyi, the deputy leader of the Mountainshade Black Market? In Feng Biyuyi's opinion, heck, even in our opinion, the dispute between senior brother Zhu and Feng Biyuyi is a small one. However, if we think from his point of view, even if I die, I would feel very unresigned being humiliated by Feng Biyuyi in such a manner. The palace master of Earth Palace chimed in, for this reason, although it's surprising that senior brother Zhu would resort to this, it's not entirely inexcusable. Is it really worth it to become everyone's enemy just for Feng Biyuyi? The palace master of Mystical Palace sighed. Mansion master, Zhu Luqi has kidnapped Xu Jing and took away the devouring dark devil technique. He has committed the most heinous crime. We need to sentence him to death once we capture him. Guardian Zhao Jin said as he looked at Meng Qing with a hint of coldness in his eyes. Palace Master Zhu had announced his departure from the Mystical Sky Mansion because he's worried that the Mystical Sky Mansion would be implicated as well when news about him cultivating the devouring dark devil technique spread out. Although his action is extreme, we have to acknowledge that he's still thinking about the Mystical Sky Mansion until the very end. For this reason, I think it'll be enough for us to capture Palace Master Zhu and stop him from cultivating the devouring dark devil technique. His crime is not so serious that he deserves to be sentenced to death. The other guardian, Jiu Xiyun, expressed his opinion. The two great guardians had expressed their opinions, but their opinions were completely different. Zhao Jin's expression was grave as he glared at Jiu Xiyun. He was about to speak up again when the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials present on the scene expressed their opinions as well. I agree with Guardian Jiu. I support Guardian Jiu as well. Me too. Most of the Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials present supported Jiu Xiyun's opinion, causing Zhao Jin to swallow the words he was about to say. Although it was difficult for him to maintain his calm, there was nothing he could do. Regardless if Guc Yun's strength and position in the mystical sky mansion were in no way inferior to him, he could not make the decision since everyone was supporting Guc Yun. I believe if the cultivation method Xu Jing cultivated is not the devouring dark devil technique but a normal devil Dao cultivation method, Palace Master Zhu wouldn't have taken such a risk out of desperation. In view of Palace Master Zhu's explanation, I'll spare his life. However, he has to be punished. 2 guardians, both of you will be in charge of capturing Palace Master Zhu back here. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Meng Qing, the mansion master of the mystical sky, finally made a decision. Although he did not agree with Guc Yun's opinion out loud, his orders seemed to quite similar to Guc Yun's opinion. Yes, mansion master. Meng Qing was not only revered in the mystical sky mansion, but he was also the strongest person in the mansion. Even Guc Yun and Zhao Jin, the 2 great guardians, were not as strong as him. For this reason, both of them did not dare dally once they received his order. They proceeded to head north after they had given their replies. After Guc Yun and Zhao Jin left, Meng Qing swept a glance at everyone present and said in a deep voice, "Don't tell anyone about what happened today. Whoever violates this will be killed." Yes, everyone nodded solemnly when they heard Meng Qing's order. They knew it would only cause trouble for the mystical sky mansion if the incident today spread out. As members of the mystical sky mansion, naturally, they did not wish for something to happen to the mystical sky mansion. That Gu old fellow and my grandfather are personally making a move. Will Palace Master Zhu be able to escape? Zhao Ji stood by Zhao Dang's side and looked north as he worried about this matter. Chapter 1806. At this moment, it did not occur to everyone present on the scene, including Zhao Dang, Zhao Ji's father, that the matter of Zhu Luqi, the palace master of Heaven Palace, bringing Xu Jing away was not that simple. In the first place, how did Zhu Luqi find out the devil technique that Xu Jing cultivated was the devouring dark devil technique? Zhu Luqi was not Zhao Ji. Therefore, he would not stoop so low as to use Li Feng to prove Xu Jing. The instigator of this matter was none other than Zhao Ji, who was standing next to Zhao Dang. Previously, after Zhao Ji communicated with Xu Jing in the secret underground room, he had suffered a headache from the condition Xu Jing had proposed. To him, it was more than difficult for him to rescue Xu Jing out of the secret underground room. Unless his grandfather or father was willing to help him, it was an impossible task. After that, he accidentally met Palace Master Zhu Luqi, who was venting his anger in a remote canyon halfway up the Heaven Palace's mountain. The way he vented his anger was unlike someone who had lived to 100 years old. He had a life-sized stone carving of Feng Biuyi, the deputy of Mountainshade Black Market, placed before him as he screamed Feng Biuyi's stone figure before he smashed it into dust. At that moment, Zhao Ji could clearly sense Zhu Luqi's anger. Hope welled up in his heart. If the Palace Master of Heaven Palace, Zhu Luqi, is willing to help me, it wouldn't be difficult to rescue Xu Jing. It was from that point onward that he concocted a plan that revolved around Zhu Luqi. He did not speak bluntly in the beginning. Instead, he tried testing the water with Zhu Luqi first by asking his opinion on those inhumane and barbaric devil Dao cultivation method. If Zhu Luqi sincerely detested those kinds of cultivation methods, he could only dismiss the idea of working together with him. However, after probing him for a while, Zhao Ji discovered that although Zhu Luqi detested those kinds of cultivation methods, his hatred toward Feng Biuyi, the deputy of Mountainshade Black Market, far exceeded everything. In order to kill Feng Biuyi, he was willing to cultivate those kind of inhumane methods. Once Zhao Ji discovered this, he revealed everything he knew to Zhu Luqi, including his own intention of saving Xu Jing in exchange for the devouring dark devil technique. Zhu Luqi, who was blinded with hatred, agreed immediately. That was how this incident happened today. Recently, it just so happened that it was Zhu Luqi's turn to monitor Xu Jing. It was undoubtedly very easy for him to rescue Xu Jing from the secret underground room before the group of mystical sky mansion's high-ranking officials realized what was going on. The only people who knew about this was Zhao Ji, Zhu Luqi, and Xu Jing. One must admit that apart from having extraordinary martial Dao talent, Zhao Ji was quite quick-witted as well among the second generation in the mystical sky mansion. Take the deal Zhao Ji had struck with Zhu Luqi for example. With Zhu Luqi's strength, there was no need for him to work with Zhao Ji. He could just work directly with Xu Jing. However, Zhao Ji had threatened Zhu Luqi he would report the matter to his grandfather and father if he dared to act alone. The worst outcome would only be them not working together. He used this to threaten Zhu Luqi and made him swear on the lightning penalty oath. Due to all this, all he had to do was sit back and enjoy the fruits of the other person's labor. From the beginning until the end, he did not even have to do anything, and he would be able to obtain the Devil Dao cultivation method devouring dark devil technique that he had been yearning for. Naturally, he had yet to obtain the devouring dark devil technique since Xu Jing was only willing to pass on the devouring dark devil technique to him and Zhu Luqi after he had gotten out of the mystical sky mansion. I hope Zhu Luqi is not useless. Currently, Zhao Ji was most afraid that Zhu Luqi would be caught by his grandfather and Ji Yuxian. Naturally, he was not worried about Zhu Luqi's safety, he was only worried if he would be able to obtain the devouring dark devil technique after all the efforts he had spent convincing Zhu Luqi. It was fortunate Zhu Luqi did not know what Zhao Ji's thoughts were. Otherwise, he would probably throw up blood in anger. He risked his life to rescue someone out from the mystical sky mansion, and he was not even thinking of whether his efforts would be in vain. However, this fellow who was only talking but did not do anything was only worried whether he would be able to obtain the devouring dark devil technique. After a few days, the two great guardians returned empty-handed. After Zhu Luqi brought Xu Jing away, it was as though they had vanished into thin air. Due to Ji Yuxian and Zhao Ji's return, the group of mystical sky mansion's high-ranking officials with vice mansion master positions or higher gathered again. Ji Yuxian was the first one to speak to Meng Qing. I'm afraid Palace Master Zhu had planned this in advance. Even if you personally pursue them, I'm afraid even you won't be able to catch them, Lord Mansion Master, let alone both of us. In that case, there's no need to waste our energy searching for him anymore. Based on his message, it's clear he has made up his mind to cultivate that devouring dark devil technique. Now, we can dismiss the people from the Rising Sky Mansion's estate. Moreover, spread the news that Mystical Sky Mansion has discovered someone from the Rising Sky Mansion cultivating the devouring dark devil technique, and that was why we attacked them. Meng Qing nodded. At this moment, it seemed like he had regained his composure as he began to deal with the matter regarding the Rising Sky Mansion. Previously, there were always people from the Mystical Sky Mansion guarding the Rising Sky Mansion's estate since they were worried about news leaking out. However, there was no longer a need to worry about it. Apart from that, release news that Zhu Luqi, the Palace Master of Heaven Palace from the Mystical Sky Mansion, has kidnapped the young Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion, Xu Jing, and has been banished from our Mystical Sky Mansion. Additionally, Xu Jing is the first person who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique in the Rising Sky Mansion, Meng Qing said. Based on his words, it was apparent he intended on pushing all the blame to Zhu Luqi. Since Zhu Luqi had dared to act in such a manner, he must have expected this as well. Send some men to the Mountainshade Black Market and notify Feng Biuyi, the deputy of Mountainshade Black Market. Inform him that Zhu Luqi had kidnapped Xu Jing to obtain the devouring dark devil technique that Xu Jing cultivated so that he can seek revenge and redeem himself. Meng Qing added again. The group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials present on the scene did not have any objections to Meng Qing's orders. The other three palace masters of the three palaces, on the other hand, who had a good relationship with Zhu Luqi, could only sigh inwardly. However, they understood the mansion master's decision. It was for the greater good. He did not do this intentionally to harm Zhu Luqi. Just like this, the shocking news was spread from the Mystical Sky Mansion and caused a commotion in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. The devouring dark devil technique has appeared again. The fourth-rate force, Rising Sky Mansion, had obtained the devouring dark devil technique. Due to the young Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion cultivating the devouring dark devil technique, he didn't die even though he was pierced by a sword at the space between his brows. After the quasi-third-rate force, Mystical Sky Mansion, discovered that someone from the Rising Sky Mansion had cultivated the devouring dark devil technique, they made their move and detained the people from the Rising Sky Mansion. The backbone of Rising Sky Mansion stubbornly put up a fight, and in the end, all of them were killed. Only the elderly, women, and children are spared. Does this mean the devouring dark devil technique has fallen into Mystical Sky Mansion's hand? The Mystical Sky Mansion's Palace Master of Heaven Palace, Zhu Luqi, had kidnapped Xu Jing for his own selfish reasons. The Mystical Sky Mansion had failed in capturing him. Therefore, they had publicly announced Zhu Luqi's banishment from the Mystical Sky Mansion. It seems like Zhu Luqi intends to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique. The tranquility of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land was disturbed due to the commotion the news had caused. Many people mused over the fact that an awe-inspiring fourth-rate force, the Rising Sky Mansion, was gone just like that. However, more people discussed the strength of the mystical Sky Mansion. As expected of a quasi-third-rate force, its strength is not something a fourth-rate force can compare to. They had easily wiped out a fourth-rate force just like that. All of the fourth-rate forces had also received this news. Some of the high-ranking officials from some fourth-rate forces gathered in their estates. They stood looking at each other in shock. The mystical Sky Mansion's strength has actually risen to such a level. Don't tell me this is the gap between a quasi-third-rate force and a fourth-rated force. The mystical Sky Mansion is not even considered as the most powerful among the quasi-third-rated forces. If the mystical Sky Mansion is already this powerful, how powerful exactly are the Mountainshade Black Market and the Azure Cloud Mansion? They were from fourth-rate forces, so they never had any conflict with any quasi-third-rate forces before. Therefore, they did not know how strong a quasi-third-rate force was. This time, the mystical Sky Mansion had killed the backbone of the Rising Sky Mansion without much effort. Annihilating a fourth-rate force just like that revealed the strength of a quasi-third-rate force. The strength they had demonstrated was more than enough to elicit fear from the fourth-rate forces. And I thought we would be able to rise and become a quasi-third-rate force in less than 100 years. Now that I think about it, it seems like I was only daydreaming. The quasi-third-rated forces have actually become so strong. There's still a long way to go for us if we want to rise to become a quasi-third-rate force. In the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, many fourth-rate forces were shocked and shaken by the strength of quasi-third-rate forces. They became even more afraid and did not dare to entertain thoughts of replacing them and become quasi-third-rate forces. The mystical Sky Mansion had displayed the strength of a quasi-third-rate force through their actions. As one of the two most powerful quasi-third-rate forces in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, the Azure Cloud Mansion, naturally, had received the news released by the mystical Sky Mansion. The Devouring Dark Devil Technique. A person was sitting high up in the main hall. He was none other than Duan Rufeng, the current Mansion Master Azure Cloud Mansion. Yes, an old man standing below nodded immediately. Elder Rong, you may retreat, Duan Rufeng ordered. The old man was Rong Yuan, one of the two people beside Duan Rufeng. When he saw Duan Rufeng had asked him to retreat without saying anything after learning about the Devouring Dark Devil technique, he was momentarily baffled. It prompted him to ask, Lord Mansion Master, the Devouring Dark Devil technique is bound to create evil and chaos now that it has appeared. Should our Azure Cloud Mansion make a move and search for the traitor from the mystical Sky Mansion, Zhu Luqi, and kill him to spare troubles in the future? Let's wait and see for now, Duan Rufeng said again. Understood. Rong Yuan nodded respectfully before he turned to leave. After Rong Yuan left, Duan Rufeng muttered to himself, if I'm not mistaken, the Devouring Dark Devil technique is a devil technique the Black Nether created. However, the original Devouring Dark Devil technique is cultivated by devouring the negative moonlight force and could be considered as a normal Devil Dao cultivation method. Moreover, the person who cultivated the Devouring Dark Devil technique by devouring vital energies and blood of young women previously should be the disciple that was abandoned by Black Nether based on his memory. Chapter 1807. Black Nether was none other than the devil cultivator who tried to possess Duan Rufeng's body previously. He was a powerful being from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Initially, when Duan Lingtian obtained the Devil Seal table, a large part of Black Nether's soul was sealed inside it. He had also tried to possess Duan Lingtian's body, but due to Duan Lingtian's soul that was special since it did not come from this world, Black Nether's soul failed to possess his body. Moreover, Black Nether's soul was obliterated as well. The moment Black Nether's main soul was obliterated, the soul remnant trying to take over Duan Rufeng's body was obliterated as well. Due to this reason, Duan Rufeng managed to regain control of his own body. The powerful ability that Black Nether cultivated while he had control of his body had also been mastered by Duan Rufeng. As for the Azure Cloud Mansion, it was a sect that Black Nether had snatched over when he was occupying Duan Rufeng's body. Naturally, when Black Nether died, the sect had also fallen into Duan Rufeng's hands. Black Nether had done many things, but in the end, it had all ended up in Duan Rufeng's possession. Although Black Nether was a devil cultivator and was extremely arrogant, he wouldn't have stooped so low as to resort to these inhumane methods. In his opinion, only lowly and weak devil cultivators would do such a thing. It must be Black Nether's abandoned disciple who had altered the devouring dark devil technique that Black Nether passed to him into something so abominable such as devouring the vital energies and blood of young women. It was not difficult for Duan Rufeng, who had spent some time with Black Nether, to figure this out. Duan Rufeng narrowed his eyes as he thought about this when a childish and pleasant voice resonated from outside the main hall. It was obvious the voice belonged to a child. "Grandfather, grandfather." Upon hearing the voice, Duan Rufeng opened his eyes that brightened immediately. A loving smile appeared on his face as well. A little boy who was about 3 years old entered the main hall by walking in the air. However, as he walked in the air, his body wobbled as though he was going to fall with each step he took. It made the people around him break out in cold sweat on his behalf. "Neoner, you can't disturb your grandfather." At the same time, a beautiful figure also entered the main hall. It was a woman with peerless beauty. The moment she appeared, the surroundings seemed to dim in her presence. Soft and long hair draped over her shoulder like a waterfall. If Duan Lingtian was here, he would be able to identify with just a glance it was his fiancée, Li Fei. Li Fei's appearance did not change much from before. She did not look like a woman who had given birth before. "Neoner, come to grandfather." Duan Rufeng shook his head at Li Fei and opened his arms wide, allowing the little boy to throw himself into his embrace. "Oh, Neoner, you seem to have gained a little weight again, good. Good." Duan Rufeng smiled widely. Love filled his eyes. Previously, when his son was just born, he had already been targeted by Black Nether. Due to both of them fighting for control of his body, it caused him to be unable to return home for 20 years. It was because of this he had missed out on his son's childhood. He felt extremely regretful over this matter. It was also because of the guilt he felt toward his son that all the love he could not give to his own son was given to the little boy in his embrace. The little boy was his, Duan Rufeng, grandson. Father. At the same time, Li Fei had also entered and bowed at Duan Rufeng respectfully. Although Duan Rufeng was her man's father, she still maintained a respectful manner in front of Duan Rufeng since he was the mansion master of the quasi-third-rate force, the Azure Cloud Mansion, in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. She had been staying in the Azure Cloud Mansion long enough to understand the matter in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. She knew the Azure Cloud Mansion was one of the 2 most powerful sects in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. It was a sect that was not inferior to the Mountainshade Black Market. Her fiancé's father was one of the 2 strongest people in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Dugu in the north, and Rufeng in the south. Both of them dominated the entire lower province. This was a famous saying in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Leader Dugu of the Mountainshade Black Market in the north and Mansion Master Duan Rufeng in the south of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were able to rule the entire lower province. Naturally, this was just a saying. What the saying meant was the leader of Mountainshade Black Market and the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion were currently 2 of the most powerful men in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. "Fair, since we're a family now, there's no need for you to be so courteous whenever you see me," Duan Rufeng said with a smile. He was quite pleased with his daughter-in-law who was standing before him. How could he not be pleased? The grandson in his embrace was given birth by her after all. "Mother, I want to sleep with grandfather today," the little boy said to Li Fei as he puffed his cheeks and bobbed his little head. "Neoner, don't be ridiculous." Upon hearing the little boy's words, Li Fei's expression turned grave immediately. "Your grandfather needs to cultivate so you can't disturb him." When the little boy heard her words, he had an aggrieved expression on his face as he turned to look at Duan Rufeng with tears in his eyes. "Grandfather, grandfather, I want to sleep with you tonight. I want to sleep with you tonight. Hurry up and tell mother." Okay. Faced with his cute grandson who was in his arms, it was, naturally, impossible for Duan Rufeng to reject his request. He immediately looked at Li Fei and smiled. "Fair, just let Neoner sleep with me tonight." "All right, father." Since Duan Rufeng had agreed to it, there was nothing for Li Fei to say. "Father." As though she was reminded of something, she suddenly asked through voice transmission, "Is there any news about him?" There were only 3 people present on the scene, but Li Fei still used voice transmission. It was obvious she did not want the little boy to listen in on their conversation. "Not yet for the time being," Duan Rufeng replied through voice transmission. Naturally, he knew Li Fei meant his son, Duan Lingtian. Ever since the news about Tian'er possessing the Devil Seal tablet spread out, it seemed as though he had vanished into thin air. He'll be okay, right? Li Fei asked, worried. Don't worry. A senior who excels in fortune-telling me has told me that no matter how big a crisis Tian'er faces, he would be able to turn it into a blessing. So far, that senior has never been wrong, Duan Rufeng replied. The senior he mentioned was undoubtedly the prophet old man. I hope that's the case. Li Fei nodded, but the worries in the depth of her eyes could not be concealed. After all, she had never seen the prophet old man before and had never heard of him as well. As Li Fei looked at the mischievous little boy in Duan Rufeng's embrace, she muttered to herself, if younger sister Kaye and her son are safe and sound, I'm sure the child is about Nianer's age. Upon hearing Li Fei's words, Duan Rufeng narrowed his eyes as a worried expression appeared on his face. He was also very worried about his daughter-in-law who was currently in the fire worship sect of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Although he was the mansion master of the Azure Cloud Mansion, someone who was able to summon storms and waves in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, Duan Rufeng's strength was nothing at all in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Naturally, he did not remain idle. At the very least, he asked for help from the watchers in the lower province to inquire about the matter. The watchers in the lower province were his acquaintances. He had to pay a price before the watchers had agreed to help him. However, up until now, he had yet to receive news from them. It seemed like the watchers had not inquired about the matter yet. The watchers were disciples from first-rate forces in the upper province, and they were all at the Divine Saint stage. If they wanted to inquire about the fire worship sect, it was only natural for them to be able to obtain news. The little boy in Duan Rufeng's embrace was Duan Lingtian and Li Fei's child. Li Fei had named him Duan Niantian. Nian meant longing. One had to acknowledge that Li Fei and Kaye were quite in sync with each other. Kaye named her daughter Duan Xiling while Li Fei named her son Duan Niantian. Xiling and Niantian. Unfortunately, Duan Lingtian still did not know the names of his son and daughter. Moreover, he had not even met his own son and daughter. The Mountainshade Black Market had also received the news released by the mystical Sky Mansion. When leader Dugu of Mountainshade Black Market heard the news, he asked calmly, the devouring dark devil technique has appeared. At this moment, the few Mountainshade Black Market's high-ranking officials standing before him could clearly sense the terrifying aura in their leader's voice. However, they were not surprised. At that time when the devouring dark devil technique appeared, a shockingly powerful devil cultivator had appeared as well. In order to defeat that devil cultivator, the quasi-third-rate forces at that time had sent out their elite powerhouses. This included the Mountainshade Black Market. It was during that battle that the ancestor of leader Dugu was killed. One could say that the Mountainshade Black Market and the devouring dark devil technique and its owner were sworn enemies. Devouring dark devil technique, Xu Jing, and Zhu Luqi, give out orders to spare no efforts in searching for traces of both of them at every operation point. As soon as they're found, kill them. Dugu's eyes flashed coldly as he gave out his order. The few people standing below him responded respectfully, yes, Lord Leader. Dugu looked at one of the people standing below and said, Feng Biyuyi, follow me to the mystical Sky Mansion. I must find out the details about this matter. Feng Biyuyi was none other than the deputy leader of Mountainshade Black Market who went to the mystical Sky Mansion half a year ago. Just as Feng Biyuyi was about to leave the Mountainshade Black Market with Dugu to the mystical Sky Mansion, a spy arrived just in time. The reason Zhu Luqi, the former palace master of Heaven Palace, wants to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique is to seek revenge from me. After learning about this news, Feng Biyuyi recalled the mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking official whom he had taught a lesson to half a year ago. He finally pieced the puzzle together. I remember now, that guy seems to be called Zhu Luqi. However, does he really think he'll be able to seek revenge from me after cultivating that devouring dark devil technique? He has really overestimated himself. Feng Biyuyi had a disdainful expression on his face. What's going on? When Dugu heard this news, he looked at Feng Biyuyi and asked, You've enmity with that traitor from the mystical Sky Mansion? Faced with his leader's question, Feng Biyuyi did not dare to dally and immediately recounted what had happened half a year ago. He was the palace master of Heaven Palace and one of the vice mansion masters of mystical Sky Mansion. Naturally, being humiliated in such a manner is worse than killing him. No wonder he was so desperate that he resorts to cultivating the devouring dark devil technique. As it turns out, it's all because of you. Dugu stared at Feng Buyuyi intently. Chapter 1808. A little bit more. Duan Lingtian, who was in the midst of closed-door cultivation, suddenly opened his eyes. He sighed deeply as he left the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda with just a thought. Currently, his cultivation base was merely a step away from the mastery refined saint stage. The obstacle had appeared when he was so close to his breakthrough, so he needed to find a perfect opportunity to overcome it. At the same time, he asked Elder Huo, have you finished using the materials? I've finished using them long ago, Elder Huo replied. The materials you gave me previously is like a drop of water in a bucket in the process of repairing the 4th level of the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. You'll need to search for more materials if you want to repair the 4th level. Don't worry, there are many materials coming after this, Duan Lingtian replied. I'll go and get some for you now. Currently, it had been almost 6 months since he had entered closed-door cultivation. However, it had been a whole 2 years in the 3rd level of the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. During these 2 years, not only did Duan Lingtian manage to stabilize and strengthen his cultivation base at the intermediate refined saint stage, but he had also managed to make further progress and was only a step away from breaking through to the mastery refined saint stage. When he opened his room door and walked out of it, he realized there were still a few people lurking in the dark and watching him. The people from Zhao clan still haven't given up. Duan Lingtian frowned, but it soon eased up. He ignored those people and went to the main mansion all alone to look for Ji Yuli. Naturally, the people from Zhao clan followed closely behind him. Damn it, he has been in closed-door cultivation for so long. Now that he has come out, he still doesn't intend to leave. When a few of the mystical Sky Mansion's disciples from the Zhao clan saw Duan Lingtian had no intention of leaving the mystical Sky Mansion after he came out of closed-door cultivation, they began to curse. It was as though it was a crime that Duan Lingtian did not leave the mystical Sky Mansion's estate. News of Duan Lingtian coming out of closed-door cultivation quickly spread to the elders and disciples of Zhao clan. The originally gloomy atmosphere in Zhao clan vanished immediately as a commotion broke out. Each of them was eager to make their moves. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of all of this. At this moment, he had arrived at Ji Siyun's residence. Uncle Ji. This time, Duan Lingtian met Ji Siyun first. You're here, little Tian. Ji Siyun smiled when he saw Duan Lingtian. However, Duan Lingtian could sense some abnormalities in his eyes. Uncle Ji, is there something you're worried about? Duan Lingtian asked, confused. When Ji Siyun heard Duan Lingtian's question, he only sighed and did not say anything. Father, junior brother Lingtian is not an outsider, so what if you tell him? Besides, he was the one who provided us with information about the devouring dark devil technique in the first place, Ji Yuli said as he suddenly appeared. Ji Siyun nodded. You tell little Tian then. Ji Yuli told Duan Lingtian what had happened, and Duan Lingtian finally understood why Ji Siyun was laden with anxiety. The palace master of our heaven palace rescued Xu Jing. The reason he rescued Xu Jing is to obtain the devouring dark devil technique that Xu Jing cultivated. He was afraid the devouring dark devil technique would be exposed as an inhumane and barbaric devil Dao cultivation method, and he wouldn't be able to cultivate it anymore. Therefore, he acted so recklessly. The reason he had acted so recklessly is to seek revenge from Feng Biyuyi, the deputy leader of Mountainshade Black Market. After Duan Lingtian learned about what had happened, he could not help but smile wryly. It seems like Palace Master Zhu can't forget what happened half a year ago. Half a year ago, Zhu Luqi was humiliated by the deputy leader of Mountainshade Black, Feng Biyuyi. Duan Lingtian had seen this clearly since he was standing nearby. He understood Zhu Luqi's feelings completely. He must have much preferred to die instead. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian was not entirely surprised when he found out Zhu Luqi had taken such a huge risk out of desperation to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique. Palace Master Zhu's master is Grand Master's little junior brother, so Palace Master Zhu could also be considered as part of my father's clan. Usually, he would even address my father as senior brother, Ji Yuli explained. Upon hearing that, Duan Lingtian finally understood Ji Siyun's anxiety. Palace Master Zhu is indeed foolish. If he cultivates the devouring dark devil technique, who knows how many people he'll have to harm. By the way, Uncle Ji, do you know what kind of inhumane deeds one has to commit to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique? Duan Lingtian looked at Ji Siyun when he reached the end of his sentence. It's said that to cultivate devouring dark devil technique, one has to devour the vital energies and blood from young women. It'll be able to raise one's cultivation base significantly. Young women whose vital energies and blood are devoured will turn into dried corpses. Guc Yun's eyes gleamed coldly as he said with a growl, if Zuluchi really cultivates the devouring dark devil technique, I'll personally kill him when I see him. Devouring the vital energies and blood of young women and causing them to turn into dried corpses. Although Duan Lingtian knew the cultivation method of the devouring dark devil technique would be inhumane, he was shocked when he found out the specific detail to cultivate the technique. At the same time, his expression turned grave as well. What a cruel devil Dao cultivation method. His eyes flashed coldly. He felt devil cultivators who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique were even worse than animals. Does this mean Xu Jing will most likely heal now that he has been rescued? Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as his eyes narrowed and glinted coldly. Xu Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, was someone he was eager to kill. Initially, he thought Xu Jing would definitely die this time around. It did not cross his mind that Zuluchi would rescue him. Before Palace Master Zhu left, he left a message saying he'll kill Xu Jing once he has obtained the devouring dark devil technique. Ji Yuli replied, although Palace Master Zhu's action is hard to accept, we could tell from the message he left behind that he's forced into a corner. He didn't mean to betray the mystical Sky Mansion. He deserves death if he cultivates the devouring dark devil technique. Guc Yun growled. Kill Xu Jing. Upon hearing Ji Yuli's words, Duan Lingtian remained nonchalant. Since Xu Jing had successfully found a way to provoke Zhu Luqi into rebelling and rescuing him, he must have some tricks up his sleeve. He would not easily pass the complete devouring dark devil technique to Zhu Luqi. For this reason, he did not think that Zhu Luqi would be able to kill Xu Jing. It was not that Zhu Luqi was not strong enough to kill Xu Jing. However, Xu Jing would most likely use the Devil Dao cultivation method, the devouring dark devil technique, and come up with multiple ways to stop Zhu Luqi from killing him. Xu Jing, I'll definitely kill you when I see you next time. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as his eyes flashed piercingly. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and regained his composure as he looked at Ji Yuli. Senior brother Ji Yuli, how many materials have you gathered for me? All the materials you want are in here. Ji Yuli took out a spatial ring and handed it over to Duan Lingtian. After Duan Lingtian performed the blood ownership claim on the spatial ring and looked into it, he was slightly taken aback. The materials in the spatial ring were 10 times more compared to the materials he received previously. Duan Lingtian was only slightly taken aback because he had gone into closed-door cultivation for half a year. It was not difficult for the mystical Sky Mansion to gather the materials during that period of time. Duan Lingtian felt grateful toward Ji Yuxiyun, his son, and the mansion master of mystical Sky Mansion. After he obtained the materials, he bade farewell to Ji Yuxiyun and his son before returning to his residence. As soon as he returned, he immediately sent the materials into the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to Elder Huo. Elder Huo, the materials inside this spatial ring are 10 times more compared to the previous time. However, the 2 rarest materials haven't been found yet. Is it possible that these 2 materials don't exist here? Duan Lingtian had an anxious expression and a wry smile on his face when he reached the end of his sentence. Not necessarily, Elder Huo's voice resonated, don't forget you're currently in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. If I'm not mistaken, the upper province should be a pseudo-realm. Although it's a pseudo-realm, the surrounding there is much better compared to the lower province, and there are better materials there. These 2 materials might not exist in the lower province, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist in the upper province. This term stuck in Duan Lingtian's mind, and he asked Elder Huo, what's a pseudo-realm? This was his first time hearing there was a pseudo-realm or something in this world. The pseudo-realm is a realm that can't be considered as a realm. It's difficult for me to explain this. All you need to know is a pseudo-realm is a standalone realm that's formed by a chaotic space. The environment in a pseudo-realm is usually good as well. It's not only good for cultivation but for various things as well, Elder Huo replied, if I'm not mistaken, the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land must be a pseudo-realm that emerged not too long ago. After the pseudo-realm appeared, all the elite powerhouses from the Dao Martial Saint Land must have moved there, but due to the limit in resources, the forces and people that are much weaker in the Dao Martial Saint Land remained behind. And thus, the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land is created because of this. Judging from Elder Huo's tone, it seemed as though he had personally experienced this. Duan Lingtian nodded even though he was still confused. What chaotic space? Why did it become chaotic and form a standalone realm? As for what a realm was, Elder Huo had explained before that it was a world separated by a barrier. Earth, where he came from, was a planet in a mundane realm. As for the world he was currently living in, it was also one of the planets in the mundane realm. In this mundane realm, there might be thousands and thousands of different planets in it. I wonder whether Earth is also in this mundane realm. Duan Lingtian did not know why this thought suddenly popped up in his mind. Chapter 1809. Then, does this mean that the people in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land are actually abandoned? Duan Lingtian finally understood after listening to Elder Huo's words. Most likely. Elder Huo nodded. After he bade farewell to Duan Lingtian, he proceeded to repair the 4th level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Duan Lingtian was not in a hurry to continue with his cultivation due to it reaching a bottleneck. Instead, he exited the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and his room. I wonder how's she doing now that such a thing happened? Now that Zhu Luqi, the palace master of Heaven Palace, had betrayed the mystical sky mansion for the Devil Dao cultivation method, the devouring dark devil technique, it would undoubtedly greatly impact his disciples. Wang Feizan was one of his direct disciples. Duan Lingtian made his way to her residence, but he found it vacant. She's not in, he shook his head as he turned to leave. At this moment, a few Heaven Palace's disciples rushed by in a hurry. Although they were in a hurry, they did not stop talking among themselves. Let's go and watch the show. If we're too late, the show might end, one of the Heaven Palace's disciples said anxiously. Speaking of, they're actually innocent. To think they actually want the disciples to bear Lord Palace Master's sin, those few people from Zhao clan are all elite powerhouses in our Heaven Palace. One of them has even broken through to the early eminent saint stage a few days ago. He has just broken through to the early eminent saint stage but has not entered the mystical sky ranking in the main mansion. This means he's still a Heaven Palace's disciple. For this reason, even if the disciple from Zhao clan is an early eminent saint stage martial cultivator, he's not violating the rules if he wants to teach Lord Palace Master's disciples a lesson. I'm afraid even those direct disciples of Lord Palace Master who have entered the mystical sky ranking in the main mansion can't intervene in the matter. After all, according to our mystical sky mansion's rule, mystical sky mansion's disciples who have entered the main mansion aren't allowed to meddle with the battles between disciples from the 4 palaces. Duan Lingtian clearly heard the words of these few people. A few Heaven Palace's disciples from the Zhao clan wants to make things difficult for the Palace Master's disciples. There's even one of them who has just broken through to the early eminent saint stage a few days ago but hasn't gone to the main mansion and enter the mystical sky ranking. Duan Lingtian frowned. It seems like that person's just trying to bully the Palace Master's disciples by relying on his cultivation base that's at the early eminent saint stage. Don't tell me great young Miss Wang is there as well. The moment he thought of this, he followed those few passers-by. He did not know Palace Master Zhu's other direct disciples, and he would not have meddled even if he heard they were being bullied. However, he suspected the reason Wang Feizan was not in her residence was due to this matter. She was most likely with Palace Master Zhu's other direct disciples. The few Heaven Palace's disciples soon discovered Duan Lingtian was following behind them. Naturally, this was because Duan Lingtian did not bother to hide his presence and intentionally went close to them. Senior Brother Lingtian. A few of them stopped and bowed at Duan Lingtian politely when they recognized him. Although Duan Lingtian had joined the mystical sky mansion later than them, in this world where the strong were revered, other than those who were related by blood, seniority was decided based on one's strength regardless of age. Although Duan Lingtian was younger than them, he was much stronger than them. Due to this reason, it was completely natural for them to address him as senior brother. At this moment, Duan Lingtian arrived next to them. He nodded and smiled at them as a greeting. When they saw Duan Lingtian's smile, they felt as though they were bathed in a spring breeze. They could not help but think to themselves, to think senior brother Lingtian isn't arrogant at all, unlike those who look down on everyone just because they're slightly better than others. What's this about a confrontation between the Palace Master's direct disciples and the disciples from Zhao clan? Duan Lingtian asked. Due to his casual manner, they took an instant liking to him. A few of them quickly filled him in on what had happened. As it turned out, a few mystical Sky Mansion's disciples from the Zhao clan were bullying a few of Zhu Luqi's direct disciples with the pretense of cleaning up the mess. At this moment, they were already confronting each other. It would not take long for a fight to erupt. In the mystical Sky Mansion, there were no rules regarding friendly battles as long as there were not intentional killing or crippling involved. Senior brother Ling Tian, you're close with Miss Fei Zan and has a good relationship with her. Earlier, I saw her with Palace Master Ju's other direct disciples. I'm afraid she'll be placed in a disadvantageous position soon, one of the Heaven Palace's disciples reminded Duan Ling Tian. That Heaven Palace's disciple was the one who found out about the confrontation and asked the others to join in and watch the show. Just as of expected, she's there. Duan Ling Tian nodded before heading to the summit of the Heaven Palace with the few others. Since the people from Zhao clan and Zhu Luqi's direct disciples were in a confrontation, it would not be long before a fight erupted. When Duan Ling Tian arrived, he discovered a large group of people had gathered at the summit of the Heaven Palace. Not only that, but the number of these people kept increasing. In the end, even disciples from the Earth Palace, Mystical Palace, and Yellow Palace came to watch the show as well. In the center, two groups of people stood opposite each other on the vast platform. One side had 5 people while the other side had 4 people. Duan Ling Tian's gaze landed on the group of 4 people who were standing side by side and discovered Wang Feizan standing there as well. Currently, she was glaring angrily at the 5 people from the Zhao clan who were standing opposite her. Zhao Ji. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian realized Zhao Ji was among the 5 people from the Zhao clan. A sturdy middle-aged man standing by Wang Feizan's side said to Zhao Ji in a deep voice, Zhao Ji, I've already told you clearly that Master's actions have absolutely nothing to do with us. We weren't informed about it beforehand. Moreover, Lord Qian Ping Sheng, the Palace Master of Yellow Palace, has also said the mystical Sky Mansion doesn't blame us for our master's crime. Hong Gang, it's easy for you to say that. However, what evidence do you have to prove that you have nothing to do with that incident? I really suspect the reason Zhu Luqi was able to successfully escape the 2 guardians is due to all of you being his spies. Zhao Ji said as he narrowed his eyes. The 4 people standing before him were Zhu Luqi's direct disciples. He would not have come here since he was working with Zhu Luqi even though it was out of pure self-interest. However, his grandfather, Zhao Jin, had instructed him to come here today and bring a few men to beat Zhu Luqi's disciples up since it was the custom for sons to bear their father's debts. Although Zhu Luqi was not their father, a master was also like a parent. He could be considered as their father as well. Zhao Ji knew very well the reason his grandfather had asked him to do this was so he could try and lure Zhu Luqi out so they could capture him. Although it was quite unlikely to happen, it was still worth a try. Bullshit, we didn't know anything about Master's plan before this. Zhao Ji, don't slander us. At this moment, it was not only Hong Guang whose expression had turned grave, but even the other 2 and Wang Feizan's expressions had turned grave. Zhao Ji's accusation was just too ridiculous. To think that he said they were spies. Young Master Ji, why are we wasting our words with them? Since they're not willing to admit it, let me teach them a lesson on behalf of their treacherous master and see if they'll continue being stubborn. A middle-aged man with a curly beard standing behind Zhao Ji chuckled as he mockingly looked Hong Gang, Wang Feizan, and the other 2. Upon seeing this, Hong Gang's expression turned grave immediately as he said angrily, Zhao Kun, if it's not because of your good fortune that you've broken through to the early eminent saint stage before me, would you even dare to cause a commotion in front of me? I, Hong Gang, swear that if you dare to touch my junior brothers, junior sister, and I today, I will never let this matter go once I break through to the eminent saint stage. Although Zhao Kun was quite strong before he made a breakthrough, he was no match for Hong Gang at all. It was only because Zhao Kun had broken through earlier than him that he was placed in a disadvantageous position. I don't even know when you'll be able to break through to the eminent saint stage. I only know you'll have to obediently prostrate yourself before me, Hong Gang. Zhao Kun smiled sinisterly. Young Master Ji, although Zhao Kun wanted to attack Hong Gang immediately, he still had to ask for permission from Zhao Ji since he was present as well. The moment he saw Zhao Ji nodding his head, Zhao Kun's body flashed immediately. Accompanied by the sound of an explosion, he stomped on the ground as he charged toward Hong Gang as though he had transformed into a storm. The air trembled and there were sounds of explosions in his wake. Whoosh, 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 comma. At the same time, a flurry of hurricane appeared from Zhao Kun's body. It made the spectators, robes flutter loudly in the wind. Hong Gang is nothing compared to senior brother Zhao Kun, who has broken through to the eminent saint stage. Even if Hong Gang and the other three join forces, they won't be a match for senior brother Zhao Kun at all, let alone the fact that he's alone. With senior brother Zhao Kun here, we don't even have to make a move. Similar to Zhao Ji, the three men next to him stood at the side to watch the show. Be careful, senior brother Hong. Watch out, senior brother. When Zhao Kun was charging toward Hong Gang, Wang Feizan and the other two's expressions turned grim immediately. The three of them cried out to warn him as they made their moves and charged toward Zhao Kun as well. Although their senior brother, Hong Gang, was powerful, he was not a match for Zhao Kun, who had just broken through to the eminent saint stage. Joining forces. Well then, I'll allow all of you to join forces. Take this. Faced with Wang Feizan and the other two who were also charging at him along with Hong Gang, Zhao Kun reduced his speed slightly before he made his move with a chuckle. Chapter 1810. After breaking through to the eminent saint stage, Zhao Kun's true origin had also undergone an earth-shattering transformation. The early eminent saint stage's true origin was indeed different from the true origin of someone at the peak of the refined saint stage. Whoosh! Faced with Hong Gang, Wang Feizan, and the other two, Zhao Kun raised his hand and struck down. His vast true origin surged out and transformed into a hill-sized palm that covered Hong Gang and the other three people. The four of them consolidated their territories from their true origins and spared no efforts in resisting with all their might. At this moment, it was also impossible for them to hold themselves back since their opponent was an eminent saint stage powerhouse. Although their opponent had just broken through to the eminent saint stage not too long ago, his level was already that of an eminent saint stage powerhouse. Despite the fact that the early eminent saint stage and the peak of the refined saint stage was only one level apart, the difference between the two was like a fish and a dragon. If the peak of the refined saint stage powerhouse was a fish, then the eminent saint stage powerhouse was a dragon. Boom! As Zhao Kun's palm landed, Hong Gang and the other three people's territories that were formed in a timely manner with great difficulty was directly destroyed by Zhao Kun's palm like a broken wall that collapsed at the first blow. Other than territories, their techniques and their true origins were also suppressed by Zhao Kun's slap as well. At this moment, Zhao Kun was battling with four refined saint stage martial cultivators, and he was completely dominating the fight. Boom, 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 boom. The four of their bodies were blown by the wind from Zhao Kun's palm and were sent flying before they landed on the ground in a wretched manner. Their original ruddy cheeks had also turned as pale as a sheet of paper at this moment. Although they had joined forces and fought with all their might, they still lost in just one blow from Zhao Kun, who had just broken through to the early eminent saint stage. How powerful! That's the strength of an eminent saint stage powerhouse. One's at the peak of the refined saint stage, two are at the mastery refined saint stage, and the other one's at the intermediate refined saint stage, yet, the four of them still can't defeat Zhao Kun even after they'd joined forces. A few days ago, Zhao Kun was still being defeated by Hong Gang. However, after just a few days, it only took him one blow to defeat four of them who had joined forces. The difference before and after is just too shocking. Zhao Kun breaking through to the eminent saint stage is like a fish leaping over the dragon's gate, transforming into a dragon that soars up into the sky. How heaven-defying! Upon seeing the scene before them, the spectators momentarily fell silent before they regained their senses one by one. Their eyes were all focused on Zhao Kun as they sighed emotionally. How weak! Zhao Kun looked down on Hong Gang and the other three with a domineering and disdainful expression on his face. At the same time, he took a step forward and walked toward the four people who were heavily injured when they were sent flying earlier. It was as though he was about to make his move again. Whoosh! At this moment, a gust of wind seemed to have blown past as a figure appeared in a timely manner, blocking Zhao Kun's path. That's enough. The figure glanced at Zhao Kun indifferently. Although he spoke calmly, his tone brooked no argument. Ling Tian, the person who had obstructed Zhao Kun's path, was none other than Duan Ling Tian. The crowd instantly recognized him as soon as he appeared. Currently, he was widely acknowledged as the strongest powerhouse among the younger generation in the mystical Sky Mansion. He was no longer the nobody who had just entered the mystical Sky Mansion. Ling Tian, Zhao Ji, who was standing in the distance, narrowed his eyes when he saw Duan Ling Tian. A killing intent flashed in the depths of his eyes. When he saw Duan Ling Tian, he immediately recalled how Duan Ling Tian had slapped him twice publicly and how Duan Ling Tian had him eliminated from the Saint Martial secret zone, causing him to miss his chances with the divine ability relics inside the Saint Martial secret zone. If he was asked who was the person he hated the most in his whole life, there was no doubt the answer would be Ling Tian. Not only that, but part of the reason he was so eager to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique to quickly raise his strength was so he could seek revenge from Duan Ling Tian. It's Ling Tian, is going to stand up for Hong Gang and the others. I don't think I heard of him being friends with Hong Gang, what's he trying to do? Hee, don't forget that Ling Tian has enmity with the Zhao clan. Before he entered the Saint Martial secret zone, he had publicly slapped Zhao Ji twice, greatly humiliating him. After they entered the Saint Martial secret zone, he even eliminated Zhao Ji, who had only been in the Saint Martial secret zone for 3 days. After that, he even eliminated 3 other disciples from the Zhao clan. It doesn't make a difference to him whether he makes a move today, since the Zhao clan won't change their view about him no matter what. I know this, but even if the Zhao clan won't change their opinion about him, it doesn't seem wise for him to appear now, right? Zhao Kun's not Zhao Ji. Zhao Kun's an eminent saint stage martial cultivator after all. Don't forget, although Ling Tian and Hong Gang are not friends, he's quite close to Wang Feizan. I always see both of them hanging out together. Their relationship must not be as simple as it seems. You're right, I almost forgot about Wang Feizan. Ling Tian must be doing this for the sake of a woman. The crowd's eyes shifted back and forth between Duan Ling Tian and Wang Feizan. Wang Feizan was originally upset after being injured by Zhao Kun, but when she saw Duan Ling Tian appearing in a timely manner to stop Zhao Kun, she immediately felt joy rising in her heart. Her autumn eyes turned gentle immediately when she heard the discussion in the surroundings and when she saw Duan Ling Tian's graceful figure. Ling Tian, you're Ling Tian. When Zhao Kun saw someone blocking his path, he was furious. However, when he heard the discussion around him and learned that the young man standing before him was Ling Tian, his heartbeat quickened immediately as he became excited. How could he not feel excited? As a mystical Sky Mansion's disciple from the Zhao clan, he had long heard the news that Lord Guardian had released. Whoever could kill Ling Tian would be his adopted son or daughter. Due to this, the entire Zhao clan was in a frenzy. Many people were monitoring Ling Tian all the time, waiting for him to leave or trying to lure him out so that they could kill him. However, Ling Tian had just appeared in front of him and standing so close to him. How could he not be overwhelmed with excitement? Duan Ling Tian was baffled when he saw Zhao Kun looking at him as though he was a rare treasure. With a slight frown on his face, he asked, "Do I know you?" "It doesn't matter if you know me or not as long as you're Ling Tian." Zhao Kun took a deep breath to calm himself down a little. He tried his best to look as calm as possible as he looked at Duan Ling Tian and asked in a deep voice, "What? Are you trying to stand up for them, appearing at such a moment?" Duan Ling Tian looked at Zhao Kun, but he did not reply. "I can tell even if you don't want to talk." Zhao Kun did not seem to be bothered by Duan Ling Tian ignoring him. Instead, he continued speaking on his own, "You can stand up for them, I'll give you a chance, how about that? You can seek revenge and vent their anger for them. I'd like to hear more about it then," Duan Ling Tian finally said. His tone was calm. "Think about it. If we fight here, you can only hurt me at most if you're stronger than I am. You won't be able to kill me or cripple me at all. How about this? I'll give you an opportunity. Let's go to the Hall of Death, and let the Elder of Hall of Death stand witness as we swear a death pact. We can fight with all our might this way. What do you think?" Zhao Kun explained patiently. When he reached the end of his sentence, his tone was calm, but it seemed to be baiting Duan Ling Tian. "At that time, you won't violate the mansion's rules or be subjected to punishment by the enforcement hall even if you kill me." The Hall of Death. Duan Ling Tian raised an eyebrow. Naturally, he knew the place Zhao Kun was talking about. In the mystical Sky Mansion, whether it was the main mansion, the Heaven Palace, the Earth Palace, the Mystical Palace or the Yellow Palace, each of them had a Hall of Death. The Hall of Death provided a place for mystical Sky Mansion's disciples to settle their enmities and disputes. When 2 mystical Sky Mansion's disciples went to the Hall of Death and swear a death pact, they could battle to death without being subjected to the mystical Sky Mansion's rules. Usually, only people with great enmity between them would swear a death pact in the Hall of Death. At this moment, Zhao Kun had taken the initiative to suggest to Duan Ling Tian to swear a death pact in the Hall of Death. The Hall of Death. Duan Ling Tian was not the only one who was surprised. Even the people present on the scene were taken aback. The originally noisy crowd fell silent immediately. Zhao Kun actually issued a death duel invitation to Ling Tian. Did he want to kill Ling Tian? This was the thought on everyone's mind at this moment. Zhao Kun's trying to use this as a chance to kill Ling Tian. What a great move, to think he's following the rules to kill Ling Tian and seek revenge for the Zhao clan. However, it's up to Ling Tian if he accepts the challenge or not. If I were Ling Tian, there's no way I'll agree to such a ridiculous suggestion. Since Zhao Kun suggested this, it means that he's completely confident he's going to win. Among the people present on the scene, apart from Duan Ling Tian and Wang Feizan, everyone, including Zhao Kun, did not think Duan Ling Tian would agree to it. What, are you afraid? Zhao Kun smiled mockingly as a hint of disdain filled his eyes when he saw Duan Ling Tian keeping quiet. Zhao Kun. At this moment, Zhao Ji transmitted his voice to Zhao Kun and said coldly, "Stop your foolish act right now. I want to personally kill Duan Ling Tian." Although Zhao Ji did not think Ling Tian would agree to Zhao Kun's suggestion, he still could not help but stop Zhao Kun. If it was before, he would not have minded if Zhao Kun had killed Ling Tian. However, he would soon be able to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique, and it would only take him 1 to 2 years to surpass Ling Tian. For this reason, he did not want anyone else to kill Ling Tian. He wanted to vent his anger and personally kill Ling Tian. He had even decided to ask his grandfather to take back the order of killing Duan Ling Tian. Zhao Kun did not expect Zhao Ji would transmit his voice to him and warn him not to provoke and touch Duan Ling Tian any further. You want to personally kill him for revenge? Do you have the strength to do that? Naturally, Zhao Kun only dared to think these thoughts. Chapter 18:11. Although he did not dare to question Zhao Ji, it did not mean he was going to heed Zhao Ji's words. What a joke! The opportunity to kill Ling Tian was just right before his eyes. He would be crazy if he let go of this opportunity. Once he killed Ling Tian in the Hall of Death, he would then become the adopted son of Zhao Jin, the leader of their Zhao clan. At that time, his position in the Zhao clan would be on par with Vice Mansion Master Zhao Dang. Even if he could not be compared to Zhao Dang, he would still be in a higher position compared to the others. Even Zhao Ji would have to politely address him as uncle when he saw him. The moment Zhao Kun thought of this, he immediately became excited. How could he possibly care about what Zhao Ji said anymore? It's fine if you're afraid. I can understand that. Zhao Kun smiled nonchalantly when he saw Duan Ling Tian had remained quiet. It was as though it did not matter to him whether Duan Ling Tian accepted his death duel invitation or not. However, his smile was mocking and hints of disdain could be seen in his eyes. Zhao Kun continued to say as though he had not spoken to his heart's content yet, "It seems like your parents are cowards as well for giving birth to such a cowardly son. Tisk tisk, in my opinion, you shouldn't have been named Ling Tian but Shu Tian instead." Ling means, soaring to the top, while, Shu means, mouse, in Mandarin. Zhao Kun's earlier words could be considered as quite polite, but his later words were undoubtedly meant to provoke and enrage Duan Ling Tian. Upon hearing Zhao Kun's words, the other 3 Heaven Palace's disciples from the Zhao clan standing by Zhao Ji's side laughed loudly. Shu Tian, this name sounds pretty good. It does indeed sounds pretty good. In fact, I think it sounds more pleasing to the ears. When Zhao Kun thought of the benefits he would reap once he killed Duan Ling Tian, he had already thrown all caution to the wind. Zhao Kun, what are you doing? Zhao Ji said angrily as he looked at Zhao Kun coldly. It did not cross his mind that Zhao Kun would actually dare to defy and ignore him. No matter how he scolded him, Zhao Kun continued to ignore him. At this moment, all Zhao Kun could think about was how to kill Ling Tian and obtain the reward promised by the Lord Guardian of Zhao clan. Even if Zhao Dang was here at this moment, he would not even bother with him, let alone Zhao Ji. Nobody could stop him, Zhao Kun, from rising to the top. The moment Zhao Kun's words left his mouth, everybody present on the scene shifted their eyes to Duan Ling Tian in unison. They were all curious how Duan Ling Tian would react. Zhao Kun is just too ridiculous, right? It's acceptable if he wants to fight with Ling Tian in the Hall of Death. However, to think he would use such a despicable way to provoke Ling Tian. That's right, how despicable. He's trying to provoke Ling Tian so he'll accept his death duel invitation. Ling Tian must know he's intentionally provoking him. I don't think he'll fall for it. However, the thoughts of the group of disciples from Mystical Sky Mansion were destined to be wrong. If Zhao Kun had only attacked him, Duan Lingtian would not have minded much. Although he did not mind Zhao Kun's words about him, he would still accept his death duel invitation. However, Zhao Kun had actually insulted his parents. Whoever touched a dragon's reverse scale would die. Duan Lingtian's parents were his reverse scale, particularly his mother, whom he felt was more important than his own life. However, today, she was insulted by some thug. At this moment, Duan Lingtian really had the urge to charge forward and slap Zhao Kun to death. However, he managed to restrain himself. If he killed Zhao Kun now, he would violate the mystical Sky Mansion's rules. He knew with his current strength, he would not be able to do anything to the mystical Sky Mansion's enforcement hall now. For this reason, he remained calm. Naturally, it only seemed as though he was calm. However, some of the spectators, including Zhao Kun, did not think Duan Lingtian was calm at all. This was because they could see his eyes had turned terrifyingly cold, and he was not as calm as he was earlier. Lingtian seems furious. Nonsense. Zhao Kun just insulted his parents. Naturally, he's going to be furious. Will you be able to maintain your composure if someone insults your parents? Of course not. I'd definitely fight with him. For a moment, more and more people began to doubt if Duan Lingtian would be able to maintain his composure and reject Zhao Kun's death duel invitation. Since you're seeking death, I'll fulfill your wish. Duan Lingtian finally said under the watchful eyes of the others. His voice was so cold. It was as though it came from a thaw hole, sending chills up everyone's spines. He soared up into the sky and left the summit of the Heaven Palace as soon as he finished speaking. He accepted the challenge. Duan Lingtian's words momentarily stunned the crowd. Lingtian agreed to Zhao Kun's death duel invitation. I think so. Based on his words, it seems like he's on his way to the Heaven Palace's Hall of Death. No way. He agreed to it. Isn't he acting too rashly? Everyone has a bottom line. Perhaps, Lingtian's parents are his bottom line. Although he knows he's going to die, he'll still put up a fight for his parents' sake. I won't comment on the other matter. However, I really have to acknowledge his filial piety. He's seeking death. He's seeking death. The group of people on the summit of Heaven Palace began to make their way to the Hall of Death in a formidable formation as they continued their discussion. Some people were looking in the distance. It was obvious they intended to call for others to join in the fun. Let alone the Heaven Palace's Hall of Death, in these 2 years, even the Hall of Death in the mystical Sky Mansion was empty of disciples stepping in to sign a death pact. For this reason, there was no doubt many people would be interested in the death duel between Duan Lingtian and Zhao Kun. Even some of those famous mystical Sky Mansion's disciples on the mystical Sky ranking came to watch the show after they heard about the news. Due to this reason, the outside of Heaven Palace's Hall of Death was soon filled with people. The crowd automatically opened up a pathway as a person walked toward the Hall of Death. That person was none other than Duan Lingtian. Junior brother Lingtian. Suddenly, a figure walked out from the crowd and blocked Duan Lingtian's path. Don't act rashly. The person who had obstructed Duan Lingtian's path was none other Hong Gang. Wang Feizan came with him as well. Since he was still injured from earlier, his face was extremely pale. He had blocked Duan Lingtian with much difficulty on his part. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian had only gotten himself involved and accepted Zhao Kun's death duel invitation due to him, his junior brother, and junior sister. For this reason, he did not want any harm to come to Duan Lingtian. Senior brother Hong Gang. Wang Feizan had already rushed next to Hong Gang and spoke before Duan Lingtian could even reply. At the same time, she asked Duan Lingtian through voice transmission, your speed's on par with an eminent Saint stage powerhouse when we were in the Saint Martial secret zone, you're confident going into this fight with Zhao Kun. I believe you won't lose your reasoning just because of Zhao Kun's provocation. From the beginning until the end, Wang Feizan felt that Duan Lingtian would not have accepted Zhao Kun's death duel invitation if he was not confident that he could win. However, she could not help but ask him to reassure herself. He'll die today. Duan Lingtian transmitted his voice to Wang Feizan as he narrowed his eyes that shone coldly when he heard Wang Feizan's words. Understood. Wang Feizan nodded and was about to tell Hong Gang to make way for Duan Lingtian. However, before she could do that, a cold voice resonated in the air. What? Don't tell me both of you are going to join forces and sign a death pact and have a death duel with me as well. The owner of the voice was none other than Zhao Kun, who had just arrived at the Hall of Death. His words were targeted at Wang Feizan and Hong Gang, who were blocking Duan Lingtian's way. Senior brother Hong Gang, don't worry. Ling Tian will definitely be able to kill him, let's go. Wang Feizan transmitted her voice to Hong Gang. She brought Hong Gang, who had yet to understand the situation, away with her, making way for Duan Ling Tian under the watchful eyes of the others. Both of you are very sensible. Zhao Kun, naturally, thought Wang Feizan and Hong Gang were afraid of him when he saw them moving away. He smirked arrogantly. The crowd in the surrounding had the same thought as well. Hong Gang, who was in a daze, was pulled away by Wang Feizan, finally regained his senses. His eyes instantly brightened as he asked in his deep voice, "Little junior sister, did you say Ling Tian can kill him?" "Don't worry, senior brother. Ling Tian is not someone who would do something he has no confidence in." "I understand him," Wang Feizan replied. However, when she reached the end of her sentence, her cheeks reddened when she realized her words sounded ambiguous. Although that was the case, Hong Gang was not in the state of mind to notice it at all. Wang Feizan's words struck him like a bolt of lightning. His mind went blank, and he only snapped back to reality after a long while. He was baffled and filled with disbelief when he regained his senses. Didn't Ling Tian just break through to the peak of the refined saint stage not long ago? Don't tell me he has already broken through to the eminent saint stage. Otherwise, why did junior sister say he won't ever do something he has no confidence in? Just like how Wang Feizan believed in Ling Tian, he believed his little junior sister as well. Although he did not know her for a long time, he knew she was not the kind to make baseless remarks. Soon after, Zhu Luqi's two other disciples arrived as well. Ling Tian is confident. When they learned from Wang Feizan that Duan Ling Tian was confident accepting the death duel, they were stunned as well. Similarly, although they were stunned, they believed in their junior sister's words. The Hall of Death was usually empty. However, it was filled with people today. This, naturally, surprised the Elder of Heaven Palaces, who was stationed at the Hall of Death. When he walked out of the Hall of Death, he instantly learned about what had happened. The Heaven Palace's Hall of Death's elder shifted his eyes to Duan Ling Tian and Zhao Kun as he asked with narrowed eyes, "Both of you want to sign the death pact?" Chapter 18:12. In front of Duan Ling Tian, Zhao Kun acted arrogantly. However, he was as meek as a kitten in front of the Heaven Palace's Hall of Death's elder. "Yes, elder." Duan Ling Tian only nodded in reply to the elder's question. "You're Ling Tian." It was apparent this Heaven Palace's elder was much more interested in Duan Ling Tian than Zhao Kun. He merely glanced at Zhao Kun nonchalantly before he shifted all his attention toward Duan Ling Tian. Upon seeing this, Zhao Kun's eyes gleamed coldly. He's just an old fellow with poor judgment. Can't he tell Ling Tian is going to die soon? Although he was unwilling to admit it, he had no choice but to acknowledge that his innate talent could not be compared to Ling Tian at all if he did not take his current strength into consideration. His cultivation base might be higher than Ling Tian now, but how old was he, and how old was Ling Tian? It was impossible to compare them at all. When Duan Ling Tian noticed the Heaven Palace's elder attention on him, he did not think it was right to just nod, so he smiled faintly before saying, "Yes, I'm Ling Tian. I heard your cultivation base is only at the peak of the refined saint stage, and he has just broken through to the early eminent saint stage a few days ago. Are you sure you want to sign a death pact with him and have a death duel?" The Heaven Palace's elder asked. Before Duan Ling Tian could reply, Zhao Kun quickly interjected, "Elder, as the person in charge of the Hall of Death, your job is to stand witness to our death pact, right? Don't you think other matters are not for you to be concerned about?" At this moment, Zhao Kun had to say something even though it might offend the Heaven Palace's elder. Who knew if Ling Tian would change his mind if the elder continued to advise him? If Ling Tian changed his mind, who should Zhao Kun complain to? He was prepared to kill Ling Tian and claim the reward promised by the Lord Guardian of Zhao Clan. "Zhao Kun, are you telling me what to do?" As the person in charge of the Hall of Death, this Heaven Palace's elder was, naturally, not someone who could be underestimated. When he looked at Zhao Kun once again, his eyes gleamed piercingly. "I dare not." Zhao Kun quickly lowered his head, but he still continued to say, "As the saying goes, good advice is unpleasant to hear. I hope that you won't let your personal feelings interfere with your duty, elder. Please don't meddle in this matter too much. It's not up to a youngster like you to tell an old man like me how to do my job." The Heaven Palace's elder did not expect Zhao Kun would dare to act so unrestrained. His expression turned grave immediately. Many people thought Zhao Kun would be taught a lesson when a voice resonated from the distance. "It's not up to him to teach you how to do your job, but I can teach you how to do your job, right?" The tone that sounded dignified attracted everyone's attention immediately. They were curious about the person who dared to speak to the elder in charge of the Hall of Death so rudely. Among everybody present on the scene, Zhao Ji was the first one to recognize the voice without having to turn to look. Father. He turned around with a pleasantly surprised expression on his face as he flew toward the middle-aged man who was making his way here. It's Vice Mansion Master Zhao Dang. I can't believe even Vice Mansion Master Zhao Dang would personally come. It seems like the fight between Ling Tian and Zhao Kun is going to be very interesting. If those who are not here learn that even Vice Mansion Master Zhao Dang is here, they'll definitely regret not being here. The group of Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples discussed among themselves again when they saw Zhao Dang. Zhao Dang. Duan Ling Tian frowned when he saw Zhao Dang. He did not expect this fellow would come as well. What was he doing here? Was he here to watch a show and watch him getting killed by Zhao Kun? Well, it was unfortunate that he would be disappointed. Junior brother Ling Tian. At the same time, another loud voice resonated in the distance as a familiar figure appeared. Senior brother Ji Yu Li. A rare smile appeared on Duan Ling Tian's face when he saw the familiar figure. He did not think Ji Yu Li would come as well. When Ji Yu Li arrived outside the Hall of Death, he immediately looked at Zhao Dang and took the initiative to speak first. Vice Mansion Master Zhao, you're here as well. It seems like you're looking forward to watching this fight as well. I was just casually strolling around and decided to come and have a look, Zhao Dang replied nonchalantly. In the Mystical Sky Mansion, without the position of the Vice Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion, he and Ji Yu Li were both the sons of guardians. In terms of innate talent, he was not as good as Ji Yu Li, but in terms of strength, he was much more powerful than Ji Yu Li. However, this was because he was much older than Ji Yu Li. By the time Ji Yu Li reached his age, Ji Yu Li's strength would definitely be stronger than his and would not be weaker. Moreover, Ji Yu Li would only continue to grow stronger and stronger. It was precisely because of all these reasons he could not directly ignore Ji Yu Li. Ji Yu Li nodded at him before rising up into the air to Duan Ling Tian's side. However, the first person he greeted was not Duan Ling Tian but the Heaven Palace's elder, the elder in charge of the Heaven Palace's Hall of Death, who was standing opposite Duan Ling Tian. Junior Uncle Chang, it has been years since I last saw you. You still look as young as you did. Look at you, boy. You're still a smooth talker just like before. I heard you're now the strongest person on the Mystical Sky ranking, right? Not bad. The Heaven Palace's elder smiled at Ji Yu Li in response. Junior brother Ling Tian, this is Cheng Yun, Junior Uncle Chang. He could be considered as my father's junior brother. His master is my grandmaster's master as well. Ji Yu Li finally introduced Duan Ling Tian to the elder. Duan Ling Tian was stunned for a moment when he learned about the Heaven Palace's elder's identity. He cupped his hands before his chest and took the initiative to apologize. Elder Chang, I didn't know you're actually senior brother Gu's junior uncle. I'm sorry if I happened to offend you earlier. Earlier, Cheng Yun had taken the initiative to warn him that he was not Zhao Kun's match. Initially, he was baffled. He did not know this Heaven Palace's elder at all. Why would he be so kind as to warn him? He finally understood now that he learned that Cheng Yun was Ji Yu Li's junior uncle. He believed Cheng Yun must have also known about him being good friends with Ji Yu Li. Otherwise, he might not have warned him. Since Duan Ling Tian had thought of this, Zhao Kun, naturally, came to the same conclusion as well. His expression turned grave immediately. He prayed inwardly that nothing would change, and Ling Tian would sign a death pact with him. He really hoped Ling Tian would not change his mind at the last moment. If Duan Ling Tian changed his mind and refused to sign a death pact with him, he did not dare to kill him in the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate even if he really wanted to. Elder Chang, since they're here to make a death pact, please take the death pact contract out so they can stamp their palms on it. I want to witness this battle as soon as possible since I think it's going to be a very interesting one. Zhao Dang said as he walked over with Zhao Ji. Based on his words, there was no doubt he was trying to rush Cheng Yun to take the death pact contract out so that Duan Ling Tian and Zhao Kun could sign it as soon as possible. Just as Zhao Dang's words left his mouth, and Cheng Yun was looking at Ji Yu Li, a voice resonated in Zhao Dang's ears through voice transmission, "Father." Zhao Dang could tell it was his son's voice transmission. What's the matter? Father, you must order Zhao Kun to stop this now. Don't let him sign the death pact. Zhao Ji continued to transmit his voice. His tone sounded desperate and urgent. Why? Zhao Dang did not understand. I thought you wanted Ling Tian to die since a long time ago. Once he signs the death pact, he'll definitely be killed by Zhao Kun, who has already broken through to the eminent saint stage. I know. That's the point. I don't want him to die. Father, I want to personally kill Ling Tian. I don't someone else to do it. Zhao Ji added again. Jir, are you okay? You agreed to this when your grandfather ordered for Ling Tian to be killed at that time. Why did you suddenly change your mind? Zhao Deng was a little confused. He did not know whether his son had gone crazy or not. Naturally, Zhao Ji was not crazy. The reason for his huge transformation was due to the devouring dark devil technique that was almost in his hands. Previously, he did not think he would be able to surpass Duan Ling Tian. However, with that technique, it would only take him 1 to 2 years to surpass Duan Ling Tian. Due to this reason, he did not wish to rely on someone else to kill Duan Ling Tian. However, how could he tell his father his thoughts? Father, my cultivation speed is a little slow lately, and I think it must have something to do with Ling Tian. I'm worried my cultivation will be affected if I don't personally kill Ling Tian. Zhao Ji randomly came up with a lousy excuse. Jir, I know that you want to personally seek revenge from him. However, with your innate talent, the gap between you and him will only get wider and wider. In the end, let alone you, even your grandfather and I might not be able to suppress him. Zhao Deng replied, stop being so willful. Just let Zhao Kun kill him. In regards to the cultivation problem you're facing, it won't be a problem anymore once Ling Tian dies. You'll be happy then. At that time, your cultivation speed will naturally increase as well. Believe me, okay, I've also experienced this before, Zhao Deng said in one breath. Subsequently, no matter what excuses Zhao Ji came up with, Zhao Deng did not intend to stop Zhao Kun. In the end, Zhao Ji even almost blurted out the secret about the devouring dark devil technique. Fortunately, he managed to stop himself in the end. While Zhao Deng and his son were conversing through voice transmission, Cheng Yun and Ji Yuli were also conversing through voice transmission. He had hoped that Ji Yuli would advise Duan Ling Tian to change his mind from signing the death pact, since he did not think Duan Ling Tian would be able to win, as well. Ji Yuli then spoke to Duan Ling Tian about this through voice transmission. After he received Duan Ling Tian's determined answer, he told Cheng Yun, Junior Uncle Cheng, don't worry. Junior brother Ling Tian won't do something he has no confidence in. Just bring the death pact out. Although Cheng Yun did not know why Ji Yuli had so much confidence in Duan Ling Tian, he knew it would be useless to say anything else since the people involved were much calmer than him. For this reason, when Zhao Deng looked at him again to rush him, he instantly took out the death pact. Boom! The death pact of Heaven Palace's Hall of Death was a huge stone tablet. It landed on the ground with a loud boom. With just one glance, one could see rows and rows of clear writings etched on the stone. It was clearly the content of the death pact. There were 2 spaces below the stone tablet. Each of you place a palm on it. This will activate the death pact, Cheng Yun said to both Duan Ling Tian and Zhao Kun. Chapter 1813. Bang! The moment Cheng Yun's words left his mouth, Zhao Kun made his move as fast as a bolt of lightning and placed his palm on the death pact stone tablet and forged the death pact. After he withdrew his hand, he looked at Duan Ling Tian with a hint of provocation and mockery in his eyes. Naturally, he still felt anxious in his heart. Now that they had reached the critical juncture, all his efforts would have been in vain if Duan Ling Tian suddenly changed his mind. Will Ling Tian really sign a death pact with Zhao Kun? The group of Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples standing at the side, in the distance, studied Duan Ling Tian. At this moment, all of them were filled with anxiety as well. Bang! When Duan Ling Tian finally extended his hand and placed his palm on the death pact stone tablet, the Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples who were anxious finally calmed down. As soon as they calmed down, many of their eyes widened, and some of them even gasped. Ling Tian actually signed the death pact. Isn't he afraid of death? Although he's quite strong and can be considered as an elite powerhouse among the group of powerhouses at the peak of the refined saint stage, even a stronger martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage is not a match for an early eminent saint stage martial cultivator. That's right. If Zhao Kun didn't break through to the eminent saint stage, he might not be a match for Ling Tian. However, Zhao Kun has just broken through to the eminent saint stage a few days ago. Even Hong Gang, who's previously much stronger than him, is not a match for him now. He could barely withstand a blow from Zhao Kun. I really wonder what Ling Tian is thinking. He knows it's a trap, and yet, he's still jumping into it. Being rash is a sin. I think Ling Tian will die today. Outside the Hall of Death, people were discussing among themselves. None of them spoke highly about Duan Ling Tian. Junior brother Ling Tian, it seems like they don't think very highly of you, Ji Yuli transmitted his voice to Duan Ling Tian. It contained a hint of teasing. What do you think of their words? Don't you feel frustrated and feel like explaining yourself? There's no need for that. Duan Ling Tian shook his head before replying through voice transmission, the truth will shut them up. It seems like you're very confident. Ji Yuli replied as he looked at Duan Ling Tian. In fact, even Ji Yuli was not entirely certain if Duan Ling Tian would be able to defeat Zhao Kun, who had already broken through to the eminent saint stage. However, since this was Duan Ling Tian's choice, coupled with the fact that he had faith in Duan Ling Tian, he did not intend to stop Duan Ling Tian at all from the beginning. Don't tell me junior brother Ling Tian has already broken through to the eminent saint stage as well. Ji Yuli thought to himself as his eyes that were trained on Duan Ling Tian narrowed. It has been a long time since the mystical sky mansion has been this busy. Zhao Deng chuckled. Although his voice was not loud, everyone still heard it clearly. Today, I hope both of you will be able to demonstrate your strength and show us a fierce battle. Since both of you have already signed the death pact, there's no need for both of you to hold back. Both of you can just fight with all your might. One had to admit Zhao Deng was qualified to become one of the vice mansion masters of Mystical Sky Mansion with his eloquence. The moment his words left his mouth, the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples present on the scene became enthusiastic immediately. It was as though they were the ones that had signed a death pact, not Duan Ling Tian and Zhao Kun. Humph! Zhao Ji snorted when he saw how his father did not believe in him as well. He turned around and walked away after that. Naturally, he only left Zhao Deng's side. He did not leave the Hall of Death. If Duan Ling Tian had to die today, he still wanted to witness it with his own eyes at least. Cheng Yun, the Heaven Palace's elder in charge of the Hall of Death, said to Duan Ling Tian and Zhao Kun, the death pact is completed. Both of you can pick an arena to carry out the death duel. Ling Tian, I'll give you a chance. Pick a place with good feng shui as your burial place. Zhao Kun smiled sinisterly as he looked at Duan Ling Tian. Based on his words, it was obvious he thought he had Duan Ling Tian grasped in the palm of his hand. A few days ago, he had broken through to the eminent saint stage, so he was completely unafraid of Duan Ling Tian, who had only broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage less than a year ago. Even the most outstanding young genius in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land who had broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage less than a year ago might not even be able to make a breakthrough so quickly to the eminent saint stage. Due to this reason, Zhao Kun did not think there was even the slightest chance that Duan Ling Tian had broken through to the eminent saint stage. It was not only Zhao Kun, but even Zhao Deng and almost every Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples present on the scene did not think Duan Ling Tian would be able to break through to the eminent saint stage from the peak of the refined saint stage in just less than a year. This was because it was almost impossible to do so. Naturally, there were also some people who suspected Duan Ling Tian had broken through to the eminent saint stage as well. These people were Wang Feizan and Ji Yuli. Wang Feizan, in particular, since she had witnessed Duan Ling Tian displaying the speed comparable to an early eminent saint stage powerhouse when they were in the Saint Martial's secret zone half a year ago. However, when she asked Duan Ling Tian if he had broken through to the eminent saint stage, he told her that he had not. It was only natural that she did not believe him. Give me a chance to pick a burial place with good feng shui. The moment Duan Ling Tian heard Zhao Kun's words, he was momentarily stunned before he chuckled loudly. A charming smile replaced the solemn expression on his face immediately, as though he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. What are you laughing about? Zhao Kun's expression turned grave immediately. He felt as though Duan Ling Tian was looking down on him, and he flew into a rage out of embarrassment. At once. There's no need for you to trouble yourself to prepare my burial place. However, it doesn't seem like this place is suitable to be your burial ground. Otherwise, you might tarnish the sacred ground of the Hall of Death. Duan Ling Tian's tone was calm during the first half of his sentence. However, he spoke quickly when he reached the second half of his sentence. At this time, when everyone, including Zhao Kun, thought Duan Ling Tian was being overconfident, Duan Ling Tian began to make his move. The Sun True Origin instantly surged out from his body. It was extremely dazzling. His entire being was like a rapidly moving sun in the eyes of the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples watching by the side. Before the crowd realized what was going on, the bright sun had already shrouded Zhao Kun. Among the people present on the scene, Zhao Deng was the strongest one. It was only natural he was the first to realize what was going on. He cried out to warn Zhao Kun, "Watch out." This was because he noticed Duan Lingtian, whom the Zhao clan regarded as their mortal enemy, had also broken through to the eminent saint stage. Moreover, he was not an ordinary eminent saint stage powerhouse. Even someone at the intermediate eminent saint stage doesn't possess speed as fast as his. The moment Zhao Deng thought of this, an ominous feeling rose in his heart immediately. Zhao Kun was most likely not a match for Lingtian. Whoosh! Zhao Deng was still bewildered when Duan Lingtian appeared in front of Zhao Kun. Just like Zhao Deng had seen, the speed Duan Lingtian demonstrated earlier was a lot faster than most intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouses. For this reason, Zhao Kun only managed to regain his senses when Duan Lingtian appeared in front of him. How fast! This was Zhao Kun's first thought when he saw Duan Lingtian had appeared in front of him. Duan Lingtian's speed far surpassed his speed. At this moment, Zhao Kun did not have time to wonder why Duan Lingtian's speed was so fast. He instinctively activated the true origin in his body, and it surged out through the several dozens of saint veins in his body. It was as though he would only feel a sense of security after his true origin enveloped his body. Unfortunately, the number of saint veins he possessed was just too few compared to the saint veins that Duan Lingtian had in his body. If he had 99 saint veins like Duan Lingtian, his true origin might have been able to surge out quickly. However, his true origin was still in the midst of surging out when Duan Lingtian's right hand that contained the sun true origin landed on his shoulder like an eagle's claw. With the sound of a crack, it crushed his shoulder. Meanwhile, Zhao Kun felt a vast energy sweeping out from Duan Lingtian's hand into his body, suppressing true origin that had yet to completely surge out. When the true origin in his body was being suppressed, the sharp intense pain Zhao Kun felt made him feel as though he had fallen from heaven into hell in just a blink of an eye. At this instant, he would have lived his entire life in vain if he still could not figure out that Duan Lingtian was far stronger than him. "Please," Zhao managed to say through the pain, and he was drenched in sweat. Before he could even finish begging, he was already sent flying out of the Heaven Palace's Hall of Death by Duan Lingtian into the sky nearby. Just below the sky, there was a bottomless abyss. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Duan Lingtian withdrew the sun true origin back into his body, allowing the crowd to see him and Zhao Kun. Please forgive me, senior B brother Lingtian," Zhao Kun coughed. At this moment, Duan Lingtian, whose hand was on Zhao Kun's shoulder earlier, was clamped around his neck. Zhao Kun continued to struggle, but he could not free himself from Duan Lingtian's grasp at all. All he could do was beg with all his might. His face had turned so red, it was as though blood was going to drip out from it. Not only did Zhao Kun fail to mobilize his true origin, but every time he tried to activate it, it was instantly suppressed by Duan Lingtian's energy that surged into his body. Duan Lingtian's energy charged into his body tyrannically like the pigeon that occupied the sparrow's nest. To be able to treat an early eminent saint stage martial cultivator this way, one had to be at the intermediate eminent saint stage at least. Only the true origin of an intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouse or higher would be able to suppress Zhao Kun's true origin. Intermediate eminent saint stage, Lingtian's an intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouse. Zhao Kun thought to himself in despair. He was feeling truly regretful now. If he was given another chance to do everything again, he would not have offended Duan Lingtian. Even if he could become the adopted son of the Zhao clan's Lord Guardian, if he managed to kill Lingtian, he still would not dare to have any malicious thoughts toward Lingtian. Lingtian was not someone he could deal with. Silence. It was completely silent outside the Hall of Death. Apart from the sound of Zhao Kun begging for forgiveness, there was no sound at all in the surrounding. After some time, the crowd finally regained their senses. They stared at the scene before them in bewilderment with their mouths agape. Gasp, 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 gasp. Chapter 18:14. How's this possible? The scene before Zhao Ji's eyes shocked him greatly. His emotion was in turmoil, and he could not calm down for a long time. Initially, he had thought Zhao Kun would definitely kill Lingtian today since he had already broken through to the eminent saint stage a few days ago. It would be impossible for Lingtian to have broken through to the eminent saint stage as well. However, the truth had just slapped him on his face. It was impossible for Lingtian to break through to the eminent saint stage. Put everything else aside, based on the strength Duan Lingtian had just demonstrated, it was 100% obvious his strength was comparable to an eminent saint stage's powerhouse. It was not easy to make a breakthrough to the eminent saint stage since he had just made a breakthrough not too long ago. How could he not see that Zhao Kun was powerless before Duan Lingtian and was even toyed with by him? Lingtian must be eliminated. Zhao Dang's eyes turned cold. If it was not because he had to be careful with his actions in the mystical Sky Mansion's estate, he would have made his move and kill Lingtian a long time ago. He would not rest until he died if he did not kill Duan Lingtian based on the enmity between him and the Zhao clan. It was only natural he did not wish for Duan Lingtian to grow stronger. If a young man with such high innate talent grew stronger, even his father would be stepped on by this young man in the future, let alone him. Junior brother Lingtian, Ji Yuli stared at Duan Lingtian, dumbfounded, with his mouth agape. As a martial cultivator at the peak of the eminent saint stage, naturally, he could see Duan Lingtian's speed was almost comparable to the speed of a mastery eminent saint stage martial cultivator. It was much faster compared to most intermediate eminent saint stage martial cultivators. When did he break through to the eminent saint stage? I didn't hear him mention anything about it before. Junior brother Lingtian, you really hid this well from me. Somehow, there was a hint of bitterness hidden in Ji Yuli's eyes as he looked at Duan Lingtian. As expected, he has broken through to the eminent saint stage. Humph, to think that he actually lied to me previously by saying he hasn't made a breakthrough. Wang Feizan heaved a sigh of relief as she snorted to herself. Hong Gang and Zhu Luqi's two other direct disciples who were by her side, on the other hand, were shocked. Lingtian has already broken through to the eminent saint stage. No wonder he dares to accept Zhao Kun's death duel invitation. As it turns out, he's not afraid of Zhao Kun at all. I'm afraid his strength is not as simple as just breaking through to the eminent saint stage recently. Zhao Kun is completely powerless before him. Hong Gang remarked with a gasp. Cheng Yun, the Heaven Palace's elder in charge of the Hall of Death, was also staring at Duan Lingtian at this moment in confusion. I can't believe this young fellow is not even 40 years old yet. With his current strength, I think he can be considered as the strongest person among the younger generation in the entire lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. At the same time, the other mystical Sky Mansion's disciples had also returned to their senses. They were looking at Duan Lingtian as though they had seen a ghost. Just a moment ago, they all felt that Duan Lingtian would definitely die. However, the truth was laid bare before their eyes now. All of their faces reddened, they all thought their opinion earlier was too foolish. Due to this, the entire scene was silent again. When the people fell silent, Duan Lingtian's voice could be heard clearly as he said to Zhao Kun while he held onto his neck, "Forgive. Did you think about asking for my forgiveness when you insulted me? Did you think about asking for my forgiveness when you insulted my parents? If I'm not stronger than you, would you have let me go in this death duel?" Duan Lingtian's tone gradually turned colder as he asked 3 questions in succession. Humph. At this moment, a cold snort could be heard. Zhao Dang had already risen up into the air, it was obvious he was preparing to leave this place. Lord Vice Mansion Master, save me. Upon seeing this, Zhao Kun began to panic. He began to struggle as he begged for help from Zhao Kun. Everyone shifted their eyes to Zhao Dang as he came to a halt. He turned around to look at Zhao Kun indifferently. Zhao Kun, you're the one who took the initiative to issue a death duel invitation, you're the one who signed the death pact. Even if my father is present, it wouldn't be convenient for him to save you, let alone me. If we save you, what's the point of having halls of death in the mystical Sky Mansion then? What's the point of signing a death pact? Zhao Dang's words were said in a righteous tone, causing many mystical Sky Mansion's disciples to nod their heads. They felt Vice Mansion Master Zhao Dang had kept the cardinal principles in his mind and did not break the rules of halls of death just because Zhao Kun was from the Zhao clan. When Zhao Dang felt the eyes on him, he knew his goal had been achieved. If there's someone you want to blame, blame yourself for being weak. These were Zhao Dang's last words to Zhao Kun before he left. After he left, despair could be seen in Zhao Kun's eyes. His head moved violently a few times before he gradually became dispirited. When Duan Lingtian saw Zhao Kun was similar to a spent arrow, he struck his hands out and sent Zhao Kun flying. Nobody saw Duan Lingtian moved as hundreds of sword rays appeared from his body and pierced Zhao Kun's body, causing his body to look like a beehive. Duan Lingtian had never shown any mercy to his enemy, let alone an enemy who had insulted his parents. Only when Duan Lingtian, Ji Yuli, and Wang Feizan left by walking on air, shoulder to shoulder, that the group of mystical Sky Mansion's disciples outside the Hall of Death finally regained their senses. Too powerful. I can't believe there's actually such a monster in our mystical Sky Mansion. Was there any eminent saint stage powerhouse below the age of 40 in the history of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land? I don't think so. Ling Tian's cultivation base must have already broken through to the intermediate eminent saint stage. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to completely overpower Zhao Kun. That's right, Zhao Kun was an early eminent saint stage martial cultivator no matter what. However, he was completely powerless before Ling Tian. I wouldn't believe it if he said he has only broken through to the eminent saint stage recently. How does Ling Tian cultivate? How did he raise his cultivation base to such a level in such a short time? Among the group of mystical Sky Mansion's disciples, some of them were well-known powerhouses on the mystical Sky ranking at the eminent saint stage. They had some understanding of the abilities Duan Ling Tian had shown. One of the mystical Sky Mansion's disciples at the intermediate eminent saint stage remarked, "Although I've just broken through to the intermediate eminent saint stage recently, I don't think my speed will be as fast as Ling Tian even if I use all might." Although Ling Tian might not have reached the mastery eminent saint stage, he could be considered as an elite among intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouses. He was a famous powerhouse on the mystical Sky ranking, so his words carried some weight. After a while, everyone came to a unanimous conclusion. Duan Ling Tian could be considered as an elite among intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouses. Intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouse. Zhao Ji was still standing among the crowd. When he heard the discussion in his surroundings, his expression turned grim. I really can't believe his cultivation speed is actually this fast. If it's not for the devouring dark devil technique, I'm afraid I'll only be eating the dust in his wake my entire life. In fact, I think I won't even be able to get close enough to eat the dust left in his wake. Zhao Ji thought to himself before he turned to leave. However, he did not return to his own residence. Instead, he covertly left the mystical Sky Mansion's estate to look for Zhu Luqi and Xu Jing. I must cultivate the devouring dark devil technique as fast as possible. Otherwise, it'll be difficult for me to chase up to him, let alone seek revenge. His heart burned with anxiety as he made his journey there. At this moment, he was desperate to obtain the devouring dark devil technique. In his opinion, he was certain he would be able to surpass Duan Ling Tian as long as he could cultivate the devouring dark devil technique in a timely manner. After Zhao Ji left, the news about Duan Ling Tian signing a death pact with Zhao Kun and killing him also began to spread in the mystical Sky Mansion's estate. It shocked everyone, including Mansion Master Meng Qing. Ling Tian, intermediate eminent saint stage, how's this possible? Naturally, many people felt skeptical. How was it possible for someone below the age of 40 at the intermediate eminent saint stage to appear in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land? However, as time went by, as the news continued to spread, coupled with the testimonies from the people who were present on the scene, those who felt skeptical had no choice but to believe it. Junior brother Ling Tian, you really hid it well from me. Ji Yuli looked at Duan Ling Tian as though he was criticizing him. When I told you to make a breakthrough to the eminent saint stage as soon as possible before I break through to the divine stage so we can go to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land together, why didn't you tell me you've already broken through to the eminent saint stage long ago? Senior brother Ji Yuli, my situation is a little special. Duan Ling Tian could see Ji Yuli was not really angry. However, he could not come up with a plausible excuse, so he had no choice but to reveal the truth in the end. Naturally, he only told him the partial truth. I had a fortuitous encounter that allowed me to undergo an earth-shattering transformation. When my cultivation base was at the early pristine saint stage, the force of the true origin in my body was already comparable to the true origins of ordinary intermediate refined saint stage powerhouses. In fact, my current cultivation base is only at the intermediate refined saint stage. I'm still far away from the eminent saint stage, Duan Ling Tian explained. Although what he said was true, he did elaborate on what kind of fortuitous encounter it was. Elder Huo and the 7 Treasures' exquisite pagoda were his biggest secrets. If news of him possessing it spread out, it would only attract calamity. Due to this reason, he had to be extremely careful. There's actually such a fortuitous encounter. Ji Yuli's eyes turned as white as saucers. An expression of disbelief appeared on his face. However, he did not doubt Duan Ling Tian's words. The world was huge and filled with all kinds of wonders. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, it was not rare for someone to have a fortuitous encounter. There were extremely fortuitous and normal fortuitous encounters, so nobody could say anything for certain when it came to fortuitous encounters. Wang Feizan, who had been quietly following Duan Lingtian, could not help but interject at this moment. Then, does this mean our cultivation base is the same? Well, if we're just talking about cultivation base, then yes, it's the same. Duan Lingtian nodded. He regarded Ji Yuli and Wang Feizan as his friends, so he decided to tell them about this matter. As long as he did not mention Elder Huo and the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, it was not a big issue to reveal part of the truth. Chapter 1815. After receiving confirmation from Duan Lingtian, Wang Feizan was rendered speechless for a moment. She felt that God was extremely unfair. The young man in front of her, whose cultivation base was similar to her, did not possess an innate talent that was higher than her, and yet, his strength was comparable to an intermediate eminent saint stage powerhouse. How was this fair? At this moment, Wang Feizan was feeling extremely exasperated. Naturally, she only felt this way because she did not know about Duan Lingtian's origin. If she had known Duan Lingtian came from the mortal continent and had reached this stage step by step, she would not have felt this way. For someone who came from the mortal continent to the Dao Martial Saint Land to possess such a cultivation base was not someone she could compare to in regards to innate talent. Moreover, she knew very well that even a top-rated genius from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land who grew up in the mortal continent since young might not even achieve as much as Ling Tian had. Junior brother Ling Tian, what kind of fortuitous encounter did you have? If I could have one, won't my strength be comparable to a divine saint stage powerhouse? Ji Yuli looked at Duan Ling Tian with bright eyes. He was eager for his true origin to have an earth-shattering transformation as well. Upon hearing Ji Yuli's words, Wang Feizan's eyes lit up as well. She stared at Duan Lingtian intently. It was obvious she was interested in Duan Lingtian's fortuitous encounter as well. The fortuitous encounter I had was with a type of mysterious spirit fruits. After I ate the spirit fruits, my true origin underwent an earth-shattering transformation immediately. I didn't know how powerful the spirit fruits were when I ate it. Ever since then, I've not encountered those spirit fruits again, even though I've searched for it. Moreover, after I plucked all of those spirit fruits, the tree they grew on began to wilt and die. Duan Lingtian lied brazenly. His words snuffed out Ji Yuli and Wang Feizan's hope immediately. What? There were more than one spirit fruit? They were all eaten by you? Ji Yuli's eyes went as wide as saucers. What a waste of God's gift. What a waste of God's gift. You, Wang Feizan stared at Duan Lingtian for a long time before she finally said, what a waste. Although Duan Lingtian's words were a blatant lie, the words he said were meant to let them know his fortuitous encounter could not be duplicated similar to his real fortuitous encounter. The three-legged golden crow could only enlighten one person once in their life and bestow the sun's flame attribute to that person's energy. Elder Huo had chosen to give it to him. Just keep this to yourselves. If other people find out, I'll be troubled to death by them, Duan Lingtian said to remind Ji Yuli and Wang Feizan. Since it was a fortuitous encounter that could not be duplicated, other people would not be able to do anything even if they found out. However, there would still be people who would come to him and ask about the characteristics of the spirit fruits. For example, even Ji Yuli was looking at Duan Lingtian with gleaming eyes as he asked, Junior brother Lingtian, do you still remember the look and the characteristics of the spirit fruit? That spirit fruit appeared very ordinary. They looked identical to an ordinary apple. At that time, I thought they were merely apples, so I just casually ate them. I didn't expect they would transform my true origin in such an earth-shattering way, Duan Lingtian answered casually, snuffing out Ji Yuli's hope again. Naturally, this included Wang Feizan as well. Duan Lingtian did not know that after the news about his death duel with Zhao Kun and how he killed Zhao Kun had spread out, it had shaken the high-ranking officials in the mystical sky mansion. Zhao Kun had broken through to the eminent saint stage just a few days ago. Even then, he was killed by Ling Tian. Moreover, it seemed like the cultivation base he had demonstrated when he killed Zhao Kun was at the intermediate eminent saint stage at least. He was not even 40 years old, but his cultivation base was already at the intermediate eminent saint stage. Such a monstrous genius was more than worthy for Mystical Sky Mansion to spare no efforts in persuading him to remain in the Mystical Sky Mansion. For this reason, apart from the Zhao clan and guardian Ji Yuxian, the group of high-ranking officials in the Mystical Sky Mansion's estate had gone to find Meng Qing at the same time. One of the vice mansion masters of the Mystical Sky Mansion said, Lord Mansion Master, with Ling Tian's innate talent, he'll definitely become someone like Duan Rufeng from the Azure Cloud Mansion and Dugu from the Mountain Shade Black Market. I think we need to persuade him to stay in our mansion. It'll be worth it even if we have to announce him as the next mansion master of Mystical Sky Mansion. I agree as well. The group Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials present on the scene agreed unanimously. I understand what all of you are trying to say. However, Ling Tian has long made it clear that he'll leave the Mystical Sky Mansion in a few years' time. For this reason, I'm afraid all your wishes are only in vain. Meng Qing shook his head. Although he did not have many interactions with Ling Tian, he could see Ling Tian was not someone who would be tempted by the title of Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion. One of the Mystical Sky Mansion's elders who was much wiser said, Lord Mansion Master, Ling Tian only feels this way because he doesn't have a sense of belonging to our Mystical Sky Mansion. If our Mystical Sky Mansion is willing to spend all our efforts on him and satisfy all his requests, coupled with making him the next Mansion Master, I believe he won't reject us. Exactly. No matter what, please give it a try at least, Lord Mansion Master. Lord Mansion Master, Ling Tian's appearance in the Mystical Sky Mansion is too important. Please persuade him to stay, Lord Mansion Master. The group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials was subtly pressuring Meng Qing. However, Meng Qing was not unhappy since he knew these Vice Mansion Masters and Elders were only doing this for the sake of the Mystical Sky Mansion. If Ling Tian is willing to remain in the Mystical Sky Mansion, I don't see any problem with directly announcing that we'll make him the next Mansion Master. Since this is the case, all of you please follow me and look for Ling Tian. Let's tell him about our proposal to see if he's willing to remain here. Although Meng Qing felt it was unlikely Ling Tian would remain in the Mystical Sky Mansion even with the favorable conditions, he also knew these Vice Mansion Masters and Elders would never give up if they did not personally witness Ling Tian rejecting him. Due to this reason, he decided to bring all of them to look for Ling Tian. The eyes of the Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials present on the scene brightened immediately when they heard Meng Qing's words. You're wise, Lord Mansion Master. I believe with Lord Mansion Master and our sincerity, Ling Tian will be willing to stay in the Mystical Sky Mansion. If Ling Tian is willing to stay in our Mystical Sky Mansion, our Mystical Sky Mansion will become the second Azure Cloud Mansion in several dozens of years at most. Previously, the Mountain Shade Black Market was a powerful force that was second to none in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. They stood above all the other quasi-third-rate forces. When the Azure Cloud Mansion changed its Mansion Master, it rose to the top and became a force comparable to the Mountain Shade Black Market. Ever since then, there were two tips on the top of the pyramid in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. The group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials believed that if Ling Tian was willing to stay in the Mystical Sky Mansion, he would definitely be able to lead the Mystical Sky Mansion to become a force that was comparable to Mountain Shade Black Market. At that time, the Mystical Sky Mansion would become one of the three most powerful sects standing at the peak of the lower province with the Azure Cloud Mansion and Mountain Shade Black Market. One must admit the ambition of the Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials was indeed very high. Naturally, this was also because they placed high hopes in Duan Ling Tian. When Meng Qing, the Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion, brought the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials to look for Duan Ling Tian was just about to bid farewell to Ji Yuli and Wang Feizan. Upon seeing Meng Qing and the group of people who were making their way over, not only Ji Yuli and Wang Feizan was stunned, but even Duan Ling Tian was stunned as well. They quickly regained their senses and bowed respectfully to express their respect. Good day, Lord Mansion Master, Vice Mansion Masters, and Elders. Mansion Master. Unlike how courteous Ji Yuli and Wang Feizan were, Duan Ling Tian merely nodded at Meng Qing as a greeting. As for the others, he regarded them as his equals. Usually, the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials would definitely be infuriated by such a rude Mystical Sky Mansion's disciple. However, today, Duan Ling Tian's rudeness was nothing in their eyes. Not only that, but they even justified Duan Ling Tian's behavior for him. As expected from someone who's widely acknowledged as the ultimate genius. What a dignified and unyielding character who refuses to bend to just anyone. If someone like that becomes the Mansion Master of our Mystical Sky Mansion in the future, there's no need for us to worry the Mystical Sky Mansion wouldn't rise in the future. A monstrous genius should have noteworthy conduct and independent character. If he's the type that goes with the flow of the tide, how's he any different from those ordinary disciples? Ling Tian is indeed extraordinary. So young, and he's already so unyielding. This means he's extremely confident. Someone like this will definitely become extremely powerful in the future. It was fortunate nobody knew of the thoughts running through the minds of this group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials. Otherwise, all the Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples would be so furious that they might even throw up blood if they knew about it. Duan Lingtian was clearly being rude, but how did he suddenly become a dignified and unyielding character who did not go with the flow of the tide? Initially, Ji Yuli and Wang Feizan were worried Duan Lingtian would offend the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials standing behind Meng Qing. However, when they saw that none of the Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials was angry, they sighed in relief and thought he was lucky. However, what happened next completely shocked and amazed them. Lingtian, we've met previously when you entered and left the Saint Martial secret zone. Do you still remember me? One of the Mystical Sky Mansion's Vice Mansion Masters looked at Duan Lingtian and smiled as he introduced himself. Then, each of the Vice Mansion Masters and Elders took turns to introduce themselves to Duan Lingtian. Their tones were extremely polite. It did not seem like they were speaking to an ordinary disciple at all. Ji Yuli and Wang Feizan exchanged a glance. Both of them could see the shock in each other's eyes. As the saying went, one would find difficult to beat someone who's smiling. For this reason, Duan Lingtian smiled in response when he was greeted by the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials. At the same time, Duan Lingtian looked at Meng Qing and asked, "Mansion Master, I wonder if there's a reason you and every Vice Mansion Masters and Elders came and looked for me." Naturally, he already knew the answer to this although he asked this question out loud. Wang Feizan still could not guess Meng Qing and the others' intention, but Ji Yuli could already guess their intention. For this reason, he had a solemn expression on his face. I can't believe junior brother Ling's popularity has already reached such an extremely high level. Chapter 18:16. Lingtian, we came here because we hope you'll remain in the Mystical Sky Mansion and work for the Mystical Sky Mansion. Faced with Duan Lingtian's blunt question, Meng Qing did not beat around the bush as he said, as long as you're willing to stay, the Mystical Sky Mansion will spare no efforts in nurturing you in the future. All of the cultivation resources will be given to you without any reservation. Not only that, but I can also announce you'll be the next Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion. Meng Qing's tone was filled with certainty when he spoke. The moment his words left his mouth, the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials shifted their attention to Duan Lingtian in unison. Their eyes were filled with anticipation and longing. As long as this young man was willing to make a pledge to the Mystical Sky Mansion, the mansion would definitely rise to a higher level in the future and become a powerful force equal to both the Mountain Shade Black Market and the Azure Cloud. If they could witness such a scene while they were alive, they would die with no regrets. Upon hearing Meng Qing's words, Duan Lingtian and Ji Yuli were not too surprised since they had already guessed this beforehand. Wang Feizan, on the contrary, was dumbstruck even though she had just regained her senses not too long ago. It did not cross her mind that a group of high-ranking officials led by Lord Mansion Master would come to look for Duan Lingtian and persuade him to stay. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and agree to it. When Wang Feizan saw Duan Lingtian did not respond after a long time, she began to feel anxious on his behalf. In her opinion, based on Meng Qing's promise, it was more than enough to prove the sincerity of the Mansion Master and the Mystical Sky Mansion. There was no way Duan Lingtian would reject them since they were so sincere. Unfortunately, she was destined to be wrong in regard to this matter. Mansion Master, Vice Mansion Masters, and all elders, Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and glanced at everyone, including Meng Qing. After a moment of silence, he continued to say, I appreciate your good intentions. However, I've already promised my master I'll head to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land to look for him. It's impossible for me to remain in the Mystical Sky Mansion. Impossible. Ji Yuli was not surprised when he heard Duan Lingtian's words since he knew the Mystical Sky Mansion was strong enough to be a fit for his junior brother. By right, his junior brother's stage should be at the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Meng Qing was not surprised as well since he had long anticipated this outcome. The reason he had come was to make the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials dismiss their ideas. Wang Feizan was dumbfounded. The Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials were dumbfounded as well. Wang Feizan did not expect Duan Lingtian would reject this offer. Among the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials, the majority of them was certain Duan Lingtian would agree to it while there was a minority who was not certain. Although they were uncertain if he would agree to it, they did not expect Duan Lingtian would immediately reject them. Based on his words, it was apparent there was no room for discussion at all. How ungrateful, Hermf. If it wasn't for the mystical sky mansion who took you in and allowed you to enter the Heaven Palace's spirit pool in the first place, would you even achieve so much today? How ungrateful. There were good and bad people among the mystical sky mansion's high-ranking officials. Due to this, some of them understood Duan Lingtian's decision while most of them could not understand his decision and began to rebuke him. Upon hearing these, Duan Lingtian merely shook his head and smiled. If the mystical sky mansion did not take him in, he would not have his achievements today. If it was not for the fact that he entered the Heaven Palace's spirit pool, he would not have his achievements today. Ungrateful. There were so many mystical sky mansion's disciples and there were also many who entered the Heaven Palace's spirit pool. Even then, did any of them possess strength at the intermediate eminent saint stage at his age? Duan Lingtian would achieve great things even if he did not join the mystical sky mansion. He had always felt grateful toward the mystical sky mansion. Whether it was the Heaven Palace's spirit pool, the Saint Martial secret zone or even how Mansion Master Meng Qing and Guardian Gu Xiyun had helped him to search for all kinds of materials needed for the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Although he felt grateful, he did not plan to remain in the mystical sky mansion out of gratitude. There were still some matters he needed to attend to. It was inevitable that some things would be delayed. He would, naturally, repay the favor he owed the mystical sky mansion in the future, but he would not agree to Meng Qing in regards to this. Due to Duan Lingtian's rejection, he and the group of mystical sky mansion's high-ranking officials parted on a sour note. Meanwhile, the news of this matter had spread in the mystical sky mansion like a hurricane, sending the people into an uproar. Lingtian is just too ungrateful. Tisk tisk, if he's willing to remain in the mystical sky mansion, not only would the mystical sky mansion spare no efforts in nurturing him, but Lord Mansion Master would even make him the next Mansion Master. However, he still rejected it. I really have no idea what's going through his mind. If I were him, I'll definitely agree to it immediately. Similar discussions could be heard everywhere in the mystical sky mansion. All of them felt Duan Lingtian was being ungrateful. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, chose to ignore this matter. In the main mansion of mystical sky mansion, there was a huge palace. It was the residence of Guardian Zhao Jin. Currently, Zhao Jin was with his son, Zhao Dang. Father, we can't allow Lingtian to live. With his innate talent, he'll definitely bring calamity to our Zhao clan. Zhao Dang said as his eyes flashed coldly. If he had agreed to Lord Mansion Master's offer today, perhaps, I might fear him a little. However, I can't believe he had foolishly rejected it. Zhao Jin smirked. Father, since he has already made up his mind to leave the mystical sky mansion, why don't we just kill him on the day he decides to leave since he has no intention of leaving the mystical sky mansion's estate at the moment? Zhao Dang suggested as his body emitted killing intent. If he remains here until the day he leaves the mystical sky mansion, we won't have any other choice anyway. Zhao Jin replied. Even he did not dare to act recklessly in the mystical sky mansion's estate. This was because if he made his move in the mystical sky mansion's estate, it would be instantly discovered by Mansion Master Meng Qing and Guardian Gu Xiyun since their divine consciousness could easily monitor the state of affairs in every corner of the mystical sky mansion's estate with the help of the formations enveloping the mystical sky mansion's estate. Due to this reason, no one dared to recklessly kill in the mystical sky mansion's estate unless they no longer wanted to live. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian was unaware that Zhao Jin and his son, Zhao Dang, had made up their minds to kill him on the day he planned to leave the mystical sky mansion's estate if he did not leave the mansion for the time being. At this moment, Duan Lingtian had gone back to the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to cultivate and comprehend the Sovereign Heart Sword. He would leave the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and his residence when he reached a bottleneck to look for Ji Yuli and Wang Feizan to chat idly or discuss martial Dao and divine abilities. Apart from that, a steady flow of materials was also being sent to Elder Huo. With Elder Huo repairing the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, there was no doubt he worked fast. Time flew by quickly. In just a blink of an eye, a year had passed. Naturally, the 1 year that had passed was in the outside world. On the other hand, 5 years had passed in the third level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. During these 5 years, Duan Lingtian's cultivation base also made a leap in progress. He was only half a step away from comprehending the third stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword. During this 1 year, Duan Lingtian was not the only one whose progress had made a leap. In the west of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, in a place far away, two people's cultivation bases were advancing at an extremely fast speed. Their speed was far greater than Duan Lingtian's cultivation speed in the third level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The cultivation method of these two men was not the orthodox method. They did not cultivate by absorbing the heaven and earth spirit energy. Instead, their cultivation method required many young women. Naturally, the effect would be better if these young women were virgins. The young women whom they used in their cultivation were turned into dried corpses. The commotion caused by them was not small at all. However, it was only contained to a certain area and did not spread out. This was because anyone who had seen the dried corpses or searched for these young women were covertly killed by them. The two people cultivating in this area were none other than Zhu Luqi, the former palace master of the mystical Sky Mansion's Heaven Palace, and Zhao Ji, the grandson of the current guardian of mystical Sky Mansion and the son of one of its vice mansion masters. Zhao Ji laughed heartily as he stood up from the dense bushes. He was completely naked, and a dried corpse lay by his feet. Upon closer inspection, one would be able to tell the dried corpse belonged to a young woman. If one paid even closer attention and saw the puddle of blood between the dried corpse's legs, one would be able to tell the young woman was a virgin. Mastery Eminent Saint Stage, I've finally broken through to the Mastery Eminent Saint Stage. Zhao Ji stopped laughing as his attention turned to his cultivation base. A year had gone by, and his cultivation base had broken through to the Mastery Eminent Saint Stage in one go from his cultivation base that was only close to breaking through to the Mastery Refined Saint Stage. This was all thanks to the devouring dark devil technique. In this 1 year, countless young women were turned into dried corpses by him. He had successfully achieved all this with the help of the vital energies and blood of young women. The former him would not have even dared to dream that he would be able to progress so quickly. Although I've broken through to the Mastery Eminent Saint Stage, I still might not be able to win Lingtian. After all, he was already at the Intermediate Eminent Saint Stage a year ago. Continue. I must continue to cultivate. The moment Zhao Ji thought of Duan Lingtian, he felt as though a bucket of cold water had been poured on him. It woke him up from his daydream, sending shivers up his spine. Zhao Ji. Just as Zhao Ji was about to search for his next target, an old voice sounded before a figure materialized before him. Palace Master Zhu. Upon seeing the figure, Zhao Ji chuckled. I've already broken through to the Mastery Eminent Saint Stage. How's your progress? Have you broken through to the Intermediate Exemplary Saint Stage? Half a year ago, Zhu Luqi's cultivation base at the peak of the Divine Saint Stage had successfully broken through to the early Exemplary Saint Stage that he dreamed of with the help of the Devouring Dark Devil technique. After that, he had continued to cultivate and progress as well. A little bit more. Zhu Luqi shook his head. I'll need another 3 months at least. Chapter 1817. Upon hearing Zhu Luqi's words, Zhao Ji replied in a slightly smug tone, "You're much slower than me." In just a year, he had broken through to the Mastery Eminent Saint Stage from the Intermediate Refined Saint Stage, breaking through 5 stages continuously. Naturally, in truth, he had only broken through 5 consecutive stages due to the Devouring Dark Devil technique. Otherwise, he would not have been able to break through to the Mastery Eminent Saint Stage in such a short period of time. However, he did indeed break through 5 consecutive stages, so his cultivation speed was much faster than Zhu Luqi, who had only broken through 1 stage. As far as I know, the vital energies and blood of young women that you absorbed are much more than what I absorbed. Zhao Ji sounded even smugger when he reached this part of his sentence. HMMPH. Although the amount of vital energies and blood of young women that I absorbed is slightly greater compared to you, what was your previous cultivation base and what was my previous cultivation base? Can those two even be compared? Zhu Luqi snorted coldly, thinking that Zhao Ji was utterly shameless. To think that he actually dared to compare the speed of their cultivation in the past 1 year. Zhao Ji was originally only an Intermediate Refined Saint Stage martial cultivator. Naturally, it was easier for him to raise his cultivation base using the Devouring Dark Devil technique by absorbing young women's vital blood and energy. Zhu Luqi, on the other hand, was already at the peak of the Divine Saint Stage previously, so it would not be easy for him to break through even if he had help from the Devouring Dark Devil technique. He was already satisfied with being able to break through to the early Exemplary Saint Stage in just a year. Moreover, he was no ordinary early Exemplary Saint Stage powerhouse. Palace Master Zhu, I really don't understand you. Originally, with your cultivation base, you'll definitely progress tremendously if you devour the vital energies and blood of virgin girls without restraint while cultivating the devouring dark devil technique. However, you refuse to touch those virgin girls no matter what. Not only that, but you even refuse to let me touch them in front of you. I'm really speechless. Zhao Ji remarked, I really don't understand what's the difference between those ordinary young women and those virgin girls. Humph. Zhu Luqi snorted again but did not reply to Zhao Ji. In Zhu Luqi's heart, there was a secret that only he knew. A long, long time ago, he had a very cute daughter who was left behind by his deceased wife. Due to his wife's death from a difficult labor, he cherished his daughter who was born in exchange for his wife's life and treated her like a little princess. However, fate was as fickle as the weather. The year his daughter turned 16 years old, he was at a critical juncture of making a breakthrough, so he did not accompany his daughter. It was at that time his daughter was raped by a good-for-nothing rich kid. When he came out of closed-door cultivation, all he saw was the corpse of his daughter that had been dead for quite a while and a note that she left behind. She had decided to commit suicide due to the violation of her chastity. Although he had annihilated the good-for-nothing rich kid's entire family, his daughter could not be returned to him. Due to the death of his only family member, he put all his heart and soul into cultivating and achieved what he had previously. Naturally, he knew it would be more efficient to absorb the vital energies and blood of virginal young women when one cultivated the devouring dark devil technique. However, every time he saw those innocent virgin girls, he could not help but be reminded of his daughter. Due to this reason, he did not have the heart to make a move on them. Not only that, but he would also stop Zhao Ji when he saw him targeting these young virgin girls. For example, at this moment, he was actually here to stop Zhao Ji, but he was a step too late. Whoosh! As Zhu Luqi raised his hand, the soil began to rise in the air before it covered the virgin girl's dried corpse, laying her to rest. I just can't understand you. Although this was not Zhao Ji's first time witnessing this, he was still rendered speechless. He really did not understand why Zhu Luqi was so protective of these virgin girls. Palace Master Zhu, I think it'll be better if we don't see each other anymore. Zhao Ji looked at Zhu Luqi before he seemingly transformed into a gust of wind and left as though he was hiding from the god of plague. Zhu Luqi was not angry. He flew out as well in another direction. If it was possible, he did not wish to meet with Zhao Ji as well. He knew if he saw Zhao Ji, he would not be able to help but meddle in Zhao Ji's matter when he targeted virgin girls. Although those virgin girls were not his daughter, they reminded him of his unbearable past. This was like a thorn in his heart. If Zhu Luqi was as unrestrained as Zhao Ji from the very beginning and targeted virgin girls, he would have been very close to breaking through to the intermediate exemplary saint stage if he had not broken through yet. Currently, he still needed to cultivate for 3 months before he was confident he would be able to make a breakthrough. One must admit that Zhu Luqi and Zhao Ji kept a very low profile. Not only that, but they had also chosen a secluded area in the west of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. In this area, there was no 4th-rate or 5th-rate forces, let alone quasi-3rd-rate forces. Due to this reason, they were not discovered by anyone during this 1 year. However, there was no wall that could remain without cracks forever. Another half a year went by when the strange incidents in the west of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land began to gradually spread. The person who spread the news was a native living in the western region. 3 years ago, he had left to roam the world and had only just returned. However, the moment he returned, he discovered that his hometown, a little village that was like a paradise, was in ruins. Moreover, there were many corpses as well. Based on the corpses, it was clear they had died quite some time ago. Some corpses looked ordinary. However, the strange thing was many corpses of young women were dried corpses. What's going on? The strange scene before his eyes was completely out of his expectation. He was so shocked that he had temporarily forgotten the pain of losing his family. Subsequently, he began to investigate the surrounding areas. All the places he investigated, the little towns and villages that used to bustle with life, were all in ruins. Moreover, the corpses in these towns and villages were similar to the ones in his village. The other corpses were normal. Only the corpses of young women were turned into dried corpses. Something's wrong. In the end, he no longer dared to investigate and decided to flee this secluded area in the west. This was how the news gradually began to spread. Hey, did you hear about it? Everyone in the little towns and villages in the west has been annihilated. However, what's strange is that only the young women's corpses were turned into dried corpses. It's really strange. Dried corpses. What kind of dried corpses? Why don't you make a trip there and take a look if you want to know? As time went by, similar discussions could be heard in some cities in the vicinity of the secluded area in the West. There were many curious people in this world. Due to this, many of them ventured to the secluded area in groups. When they personally witnessed everything with their own eyes, they finally realized the rumor they heard was indeed true. My goodness, who did this? All these young women are very pitiful. Not only were they killed, but they were even turned into dried corpses. Wait a minute, look, there are no signs of injuries on these young women, unlike the ordinary corpses. Moreover, they're all naked. Hey, do you all think it's possible this is the work of a devil cultivator? If a devil cultivator really did this, then the cultivation method is really too inhumane. Among the curious people, there were many people who were experienced and knowledgeable. As they discussed among themselves, they began to form a conclusion as well. There was a devil cultivator who cultivated some inhumane devil Dao cultivation method roaming freely in the secluded area in the West. There was no lack of devil cultivators in the Dao Martial Saint Land, and they were widely acknowledged in the Dao Martial Saint Land as well. However, those devil cultivators who were acknowledged were those who cultivated ordinary devil Dao cultivation methods. Devil cultivators who cultivated inhumane devil Dao cultivation methods were all abhorred by everyone in the Dao Martial Saint Land. If only one person was spreading this news, there might be people who were skeptical. However, this news was confirmed by hundreds and thousands of people. The number only continued to grow as the news spread. There was no doubt this news was true. I remember 2 years ago, the quasi-third-rate force, Mystical Sky Mansion, released news that the devouring dark devil technique has reappeared in this world. Moreover, the person who obtained the devouring dark devil technique is Zhu Luqi, the former palace master of the Mystical Sky Mansion's Heaven Palace. Rumor has it that the devouring dark devil technique is a top-tier inhumane devil Dao cultivation method. It's cultivated by absorbing the vital energies and blood of young women. All the young women captured by those who cultivate the devouring dark devil technique would turn into dried corpses in the end. Hey, is it possible that the strange incidents in the secluded area in the West has something to do with the devouring dark devil technique? Now that you mentioned it, I remember it as well. If it's really the devouring dark devil technique, then everything makes sense now. Then, does this mean that all of those people who were killed and those young women who were turned into dried corpses are the doings of Zhu Luqi, the former palace master of Mystical Sky Mansion's Heaven Palace? Most likely. Very quickly, people began to connect the strange incidents in the secluded area in the West to the devouring dark devil technique. All the blame was instantly placed on Zhu Luqi, the former palace master of the Mystical Sky Mansion's Heaven Palace, since people in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land only knew that he had obtained the devouring dark devil technique. Nobody knew that Zhao Ji had also obtained the devouring dark devil technique as well. Palace Master Zhu, it seems like we've been exposed, looks like we'll have to lay low for a while. Do you have any plan? The areas in the West were still in an uproar when Zhao Ji and Zhu Luqi met up at a vacant stone forest in the secluded area in the west of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. It was apparent they knew their deeds had been exposed. What plans do you think I have? Hide, of course. Unlike you, I can't return to the Mystical Sky Mansion openly after cultivating the devouring dark devil technique and killing so many young women, right? Zhu Luqi replied in a deep voice. Haha, in that case, I bid farewell to you, Palace Master Zhu. Not only that, but I'll leave Xu Jing in your care. After all, we've yet to learn everything about the devouring dark devil technique. Zhao Ji made a point of reminding Zhu Luqi before he left. I can no longer stay here. After Zhao Ji left, Zhu Luqi also began to leave. Chapter 1818. Zhu Luqi was aware of his own capabilities. Although he has broken through to the intermediate exemplary saint stage, there were still a lot of people in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land who could defeat him. Put aside the quintessential saint stage watchers from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, leaders from quasi-third-rate forces like the Azure Cloud Mansion and Mountainshade Black Market were strong powerhouses who could easily kill him. It was said that both of their cultivation bases were already at the peak of the exemplary saint stage. Apart from both of them, there were also other leaders of quasi-third-rate forces, including Mansion Master Meng Qing of Mystical Sky Mansion. The weakest among them was at the Mastery Exemplary Saint stage. Other than that, there were also elite figures such as the deputy leader of Mountainshade Black Market, Feng Buyuyi, who was a powerhouse at the intermediate exemplary saint stage. People like him were merely a step away from breaking through to the mastery exemplary saint stage. At this moment, he was not a match for them at all. Feng Buyuyi, I've also broken through to the intermediate exemplary saint stage. The day I break through to the mastery exemplary saint stage will be the day you die. There was a vicious glint in Zhu Luqi's eyes. The reason he had decided to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique was to seek revenge from Feng Buyuyi. As time passed, Zhu Luqi gradually calmed down. It's not beneficial for me to act at this time. I'll have to lay low for a while. I'll focus on my martial tactics and divine ability. The divine ability Zhu Luqi mentioned was the divine ability contained in the devouring dark devil technique. The divine ability was not a useless low-grade divine ability. Even Xu Jing was not certain of what it was because only powerhouses above the divine saint stage could comprehend and cultivate it. Soon after, Zhu Luqi also left the western area of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Meanwhile, news about the appearance of the devouring dark devil technique began to spread further and further. Eventually, most of the people in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land had heard about it. The devouring dark devil technique. What's a devouring dark devil technique? As news of the devouring dark devil technique spread, the technique became even more famous. Not many people knew of its existence prior to this. After all, it had been a long time since the devouring dark devil technique was famous. Currently, those in the know were mostly people from stronger forces that still had people who lived through that era. The devouring dark devil technique is cultivated by devouring young women's vital energies and blood. It would be even better if it's a virgin. Moreover, the corpses of the young women would turn into dried corpses. As details of the devouring dark devil technique spread, the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land fell into chaos and panic. Young women, in particular, wished they could dig themselves a hole to hide in since they were the primary targets of devil cultivators who were cultivating the devouring dark devil technique. Since the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land was in a state of panic, it was only natural that quasi-third-rate forces and fourth-rate forces caught wind of this. Does Zhu Luqi really intend on becoming like the devil cultivator who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique back then and become the public's enemy? Many high-ranking officials from fourth-rate forces began to curse. I'm lucky enough to have met Mansion Master Meng Qing of Mystical Sky Mansion once. He's an extremely righteous person. I don't understand how a scum like Zhu Luqi even appeared in the Mystical Sky Mansion. Many quasi-third-rate forces high-ranking officials said. Quasi-third-rate forces stood at the peak of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Naturally, after they had learned about this matter, there was no way they could ignore it since chaos and panic had already descended in the lower province. Even if Zhu Luqi has cultivated for 2 years, he won't be that strong yet. Even though he's cultivating the devouring dark devil technique, we must kill him before he grows too strong. If we can't kill him before then, a lot of lives will be lost in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, one of the leaders from a quasi-third-rate force said. He was determined to kill Zhu Luqi. At the same time, leaders from other quasi-third-rate forces began to order powerhouses from their sects to head to the secluded areas in the western side of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Even fourth-rate forces joined in to help as well. Although many of the current powerhouses in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were not around during the chaotic time when the devil cultivator who had cultivated the devouring dark devil technique first appeared, they knew how terrifying a devil cultivator who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique was from records in their sects. Back then, the devil cultivator who cultivated the devouring dark devil technique had relied on his cultivation base at the peak of the exemplary saint stage and killed several powerhouses at the peak of the exemplary saint stage when he was surrounded by them. This included many mastery exemplary saint stage powerhouses as well. Even then, he managed to escape eventually. The Mystical Sky Mansion had sent 2 of its guardians. As for Mansion Master Meng Qing, he had to stay in the mansion to guard the Mystical Sky Mansion. Not long after the 2 guardians of Mystical Sky Mansion left, Meng Qing, who was pacing back and forth in the garden with a frown on his face, felt a gust of wind on his face. Subsequently, an ancient figure appeared before him. It was an old man with only one arm. If Duan Lingtian was around, he would be able to identify him as the old man who guarded the Heaven Palace's spirit pool. He was also the master of Guardian Jiu Xiyun and the Grand Master of Duan Lingtian's senior brother, Jiu Li. Senior uncle. When Meng Qing saw the old man, he did not dare to dally and immediately greeted him with a bow even though he was the mansion master of Mystical Sky Mansion. The old man standing before him was his master's senior brother after all. He was the most senior member in the mystical sky mansion. The seemingly pleasant old man's eyes gleamed coldly as he said, "Mansion master, there's no need for you to be so courteous, I'm here to ask for a favor. Please allow me to leave the mystical sky mansion so I can look for Zhu Luqi and personally kill him." "Senior uncle, the two guardians will deal with this matter, it's not necessary for you to personally make a move." Meng Qing smiled wryly. It was not that he doubted the old man's strength. It was just that he could not bear the thought of the old man still working for the sake of the mystical sky mansion even at such an old age. "Mansion master, that brat, Zhu Luqi, had cultivated by my side for quite some time, although we're not master and disciple, I feel it's my responsibility to clean up this mess." The old man insisted. "There's no reason for me to reject your request if you're so determined, senior uncle, however, do take your strength into consideration. It has been 2 years since Zhu Luqi cultivated the devouring dark devil technique without any restraint. He has probably broken through to the intermediate exemplary saint stage," Meng Qing said. He could not help but remind the old man. "What, is Mansion Master doubting this old man's strength and thinks that this old man's weaker than that brat, Zhu Luqi?" As the old man spoke, a powerful aura surged out from his body and shrouded Meng Qing. Meng Qing's expression changed immediately. He had a delighted expression on his face. "Senior uncle, you've made a breakthrough." "Su." Meng Qing only saw the back of the old man in response to his question. In the mystical sky mansion's heaven palace. "Su." A figure moved rapidly away from the direction of the main residence and arrived at the platform halfway up the mountain of Heaven Palace in just a blink of an eye. He stood in front of an independent courtyard. The figure was none other than Ji Yuli. "What are all of you all doing, sneaking around junior brother Ling Tian's residence?" Ji Yuli asked in a low voice as he raised his hand. The air stirred as an invisible energy harshly picked up the people hidden in the surroundings and threw them on the ground. Wah, wah. The people who were thrown on the ground were disciples from the Zhao clan in the mystical sky mansion. All of them were suppressed by the powerful invisible energy to the point that they were throwing up blood. Divine saint stage. One of the mystical sky mansion's disciples from the Zhao clan whose cultivation base was higher suddenly changed his expression. When he looked at Ji Yuli once again, it seemed as though he had seen a ghost. "Ji Yuli, why you've broken through to the divine saint stage?" "Zhao Dong, as it turns out, you're worthy of being ranked number 5 on the mystical sky ranking. You can actually tell that I've made a breakthrough," Ji Yuli said as he glanced indifferently at the mystical sky mansion's disciple from Zhao clan. The mystical sky mansion's disciple from Zhao clan who had spoken earlier was ranked 5th on the mystical sky ranking. He had broken through to the peak of the eminent saint stage recently. For this reason, he could instantly tell Ji Yuli had broken through to the divine saint stage. Although he had just broken through to the peak of the eminent saint stage, it would not be easy for other powerhouses at the peak of the eminent saint stage to injure him. Only powerhouses at the divine saint stage or above were capable of injuring him so easily. That was why it did not take him long to figure out that Ji Yuli had broken through to the divine saint stage. The divine saint stage. The other mystical sky mansion's disciples from Zhao clan almost fainted when they heard Zhao Dong's words. A divine saint stage powerhouse was strong enough to crush them with just his pinky alone. "Senior brother Ji Yuli, congratulations." At this moment, the door to a room opened up. Following that, a handsome young man dressed white walked out slowly. There was a refreshing smile on his face. "Junior brother Ling Tian, you finally came out from closed-door cultivation." Ji Yuli said in surprise, "I actually came at such a timely manner. I came out from closed-door cultivation half a month ago and was trying to comprehend martial tactics. That's why I instantly heard what's happening outside." The young man who walked out from the room was none other than Duan Ling Tian. Since he had a disguise on and had changed his identity, Duan Ling Tian no longer only wore purple clothes. "Junior brother Ling Tian, what do you want to do with them?" Ji Yuli asked for Duan Ling Tian's opinion as he narrowed his eyes while he looked at Zhao Dong and the others. "Don't mess with us. Don't forget that mystical sky mansion prohibits killing in the estate." Zhao Dong was terrified when he saw Ji Yuli was looking at him. The other mystical sky mansion's disciples from Zhao clan were looking at Duan Ling Tian pitifully as though they were begging for mercy. At this moment, they had completely forgotten that they had angered Ji Yuli because they were spying on Duan Ling Tian. Chapter 18:19. Chapter 18:20. Ru Feng in the south. Ru Feng. "Let them go, Duan Lingtian said indifferently as he looked at the mystical Sky Mansion's disciples from Zhao clan. Scram, Ji Yuli said with narrowed eyes as soon as he heard Duan Lingtian's words and saw the mystical Sky Mansion's disciples sitting there in a daze. After the people from Zhao clan had fled, Ji Yuli walked into the yard with an annoyed expression on his face. I wanted to surprise my old man when I came out from closed-door cultivation today. Who knew he's not around? Is that why senior brother Ji Yuli came over immediately to share the news? Duan Lingtian asked with a smile. Ji Yuli nodded. I'm afraid it won't be long before news of your breakthrough to the divine stage spreads in the mystical Sky Mansion through those fellows. As far as I know, even the mansion master did not reach the divine stage when he was your age. Duan Lingtian praised. Alright, stop complimenting me, it's okay if others do it, but it's awkward when it comes from you. Ji Yuli waved his hands hurriedly and said, who would dare to mention their innate talent in front of a freak like you? By the way, the atmosphere in the mansion doesn't seem quite right when I was making my way here. Do you know what happened? The devouring dark devil technique has appeared. Duan Lingtian said solemnly. He came out from closed-door cultivation half a month ago, therefore he had heard about what had happened. Didn't the devouring dark devil technique already appear a while ago? Ji Yuli questioned, confused. Almost 2 years ago, the mystical Sky Mansion had acted against the rising Sky Mansion for the devouring dark devil technique. Naturally, they did not know that the devil Dao cultivation method was the devouring dark devil technique in the beginning. When they discovered what it was later, Xu Jing, the culprit and young master of the rising Sky Mansion, had already been taken away. Currently, the remote areas in the western side have become ghost towns, almost everyone there has died. Young women, in particular, were turned into dried corpses, Duan Lingtian said solemnly. Now that this matter is known in the entire lower province, young women, including those from our mystical Sky Mansion, are all feeling afraid. It's certain that it's the devouring dark devil technique because there's a precedent in the past. The current situation is somewhat similar to what had happened back then, Duan Lingtian said. Originally, only Xu Jing cultivated the devouring dark devil technique. However, after he was rescued, there is more than one person who is cultivating the devouring dark devil technique. You mean, Palace Master Zhu has already cultivated the devouring dark devil technique and the incidents in the remote areas in the western side of the lower province are his doings? Ji Yuli gasped. He did not expect such a huge matter to happen while he was in closed-door cultivation. Xu Jing might still be in a coma physically, but it won't be hard for him to communicate with others with his soul remnants that had yet to fully recover. That's why it's extremely simple for him to teach the devouring dark devil technique to Palace Master Zhu. Duan Lingtian speculated out loud. Palace Master Zhu might have an agreement with Xu Jing when he brought him away. He rescued Xu Jing in exchange for the devouring dark devil technique. I didn't think someone would be able to change so quickly. In the past, Palace Master Zhu had a mild temper, but now, Ji Yuli sighed. Sometimes being obsessed with revenge can be a person's downfall. Duan Lingtian said solemnly as his eyes gleamed. Zhu Luqi was the former palace master of mystical Sky Mansion's Heaven Palace. Although they were not familiar with each other, they still had a few interactions here and there. Duan Lingtian's first impression of him was that he was a kind elder. However, a seed of hatred had grown in the kind elder's heart due to the humiliation he suffered from the deputy leader of Mountainshade Black Market, Feng Biyuyi. He could no longer suppress his need for revenge when he learned about the devouring dark devil technique. The seed of hatred sprouted and grew instead. Zhu Luqi could only absorb as much vital energies and blood of young women to cultivate the devouring dark devil technique in order to rapidly improve his cultivation base until he could seek revenge from the deputy leader of Mountainshade Black Market, Feng Biyuyi. However, Feng Biyuyi, the deputy leader of Mountainshade Market, did go overboard. If I was Palace Master Zhu and was humiliated like that, I wouldn't be able to take it either. At that time, Ji Yuli was also present on the scene when Zhu Luqi was humiliated by Feng Biyuyi. Whenever he thought of this incident, he still defended Zhu Luqi. If senior brother Ji Yuli was Palace Master Zhu, and you know very well that you can never seek revenge if you cultivate using orthodox methods, what would you do if you're faced with the temptation of the devouring dark devil technique? Duan Lingtian asked. Perhaps, I might have made the same choice as Palace Master Zhu. Ji Yuli sighed. In my opinion, I'd rather die than suffer that kind of humiliation. Junior brother Lingtian, what about you? What would you do if you're not so talented and you're in Palace Master Zhu's shoes? If I was in Palace Master Ju's shoes, I'll definitely want Feng Biyuyi to suffer more than anything else. However, I probably won't cultivate the devouring dark devil technique. There's a saying, treat others how you want to be treated. Ultimately, all those young women are innocent, Duan Lingtian lamented. If it was Duan Lingtian in his past life, he would have definitely made the same choice as Ji Yuli. However, he had experienced warmth in this world. He was not willing to destroy innocent young women just for his own benefit. You'd rather not seek revenge than cultivate the devouring dark devil technique? Ji Yuli asked again. Of course not. Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed viciously. Being humiliated in that manner and having my pride trampled on, how can I not seek revenge for that? However, even if my strength doesn't allow me to seek revenge in that manner, I'll look for other ways to seek revenge. Duan Lingtian continued to say, for example, I can think of ways to make others do the work for me. Make others do the work for you? Ji Yuli was stunned. How? For example, I can kidnap one of the family members of the leader of Mountainshade Black Market or the mansion master of the Azure Cloud Mansion. I can use their family as leverage and ask them to kill Feng Biyuyi. Once Feng Biyuyi dies, I'll let their family member go. Duan Lingtian said, even if they kill me eventually, I'll still feel it's worth it. When Ji Yuli heard Duan Lingtian's words, he felt amazed. At the same time, he sighed emotionally. It would have been great if Palace Master Zhu heard your words before he rescued Shu Jing. Senior brother Ji Yuli, I'm just casually saying this, it's obviously not that easy to kidnap the family members of the leader of Mountainshade Black Market or the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Duan Lingtian shook his head and said, that's why even if Palace Master Zhu heard my words, he might not have heeded them. That might be the case in the past. However, from what I know, the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion is a sentimental person. I heard he brought back many family members from his hometown to the Azure Cloud Mansion a few years ago. Ji Yuli said, he brought back quite a number of them to the Azure Cloud Mansion. It would be impossible for every one of them to be protected by a powerhouse at the peak of the Divine Saint stage. With Palace Master Ju's strength at the peak of the Divine Saint stage, it wouldn't have been hard for him to kidnap one of them. A few years ago, he brought back many family members from his hometown to the Azure Cloud Mansion. Duan Lingtian was stunned when he heard Ji Yuli's words. He asked, Senior brother Ji Yuli, I heard that the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion is very young. His rise in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land happened less than 20 years ago. During that period of time, he managed to lead the Azure Cloud Mansion to stand at the peak of the lower province and is on equal footing with the Mountainshade Black Market. Yes, the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion is legendary in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. He's also someone I admire. Ji Yuli nodded. Although the leader of Mountainshade Black Market's innate talent and strength are not inferior to his, he was nurtured by the Mountainshade Black Market since young. On the contrary, the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion only came from the mortal continent. As someone who came from the mortal continent and rose to such heights, it's enough to make him a legend in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Ji Yuli said in admiration. Mortal continent? Duan Lingtian was shocked. The mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion is from the mortal continent. At this moment, all the information about the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion began to appear in Duan Lingtian's mind. In less than 20 years, he rose quickly in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. A few years ago, he brought his relatives here from his hometown in the mortal continent. Dugu in the north, Rufeng in the south, holding up the heaven and earth of the lower province. Rufeng in the south refers to the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Rufeng. Back then, little Fair, she was brought away by father's men. To be able to bring little Fair away from the Greenwave Han Mansion, that's a fifth-rate force. Father's subordinate is certainly not weak. Could it be? A hard-to-believe thought suddenly appeared in Duan Lingtian's mind. Naturally, this was just his speculation. He could not confirm it yet. Junior brother Lingtian, what's wrong with you? Ji Yuli was baffled when he saw the blank expression on Duan Lingtian's face as he stared ahead in a daze. His body was even trembling a little. He did not know why his junior brother would suddenly react in this manner. Ji Yu, senior brother Ji Yuli. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and tried to suppress his raging emotions. He looked at Ji Yuli and asked solemnly, do you know the name of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion? When Ji Yuli saw Duan Lingtian's solemn expression, he expected him to say something serious. He did not expect to be asked this question. Ji Yuli did not know if he should laugh or cry. What? Junior brother Ling Tian doesn't know the name of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Senior brother Ji Yuli, tell me. Duan Ling Tian took another deep breath, but his body was still trembling. At this moment, Ji Yuli finally realized something was amiss with Duan Ling Tian. Although he did not know the reason why, he became serious as well as he answered, the name of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion is Duan Rufeng. Perhaps, you've never heard of his name, but you should have heard of the saying, Dugu in the north, Rufeng in the south, holding up the heaven and earth of the lower province. Rufeng in the south refers to him,